Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to this special City Council meeting of June 2nd, 2022. Thank you all for coming. We do have a published agenda this evening, and we have essentially two work sessions where we hope to talk about homeless solutions to the homeless, as well as the specific ordinance that is before council, not now, but it will be at our next city council meeting. And are you going to do roll call?
Yeah, I will call roll, and just a clarification, that ordinance will come to city council on June 20th, so not Monday's meeting.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Councilmember Dennehy.
Here.
Councilmember Schmischer.
Here.
Councilmember B. Smith. Absent. Councilmember Stein.
Here.
Councilmember Tracy is absent. Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
Here.
Mayor Smith.
Here.
Thank you for that, Ryan. This is part of a process that we've been undertaking, and right now I have over 20 requests to address council tonight, and what we are trying to do is focus on solutions. And to that end, when Ryan begins his presentation, we have something new that we have not done before at the city that will allow direct participation by everyone that has a cell phone here in the audience and that may be watching us via Facebook Live. So when you see the links, you can go ahead and start trying to get hooked up. We are trying to focus on solutions tonight, and if you have something to say towards solutions, we're glad to listen to you. If it's just a further reiteration of the problems, I think that we've heard pretty clearly what the problems are, and if that's the case, I'd ask you to perhaps consider not speaking. If we honored all the speaking requests, that leaves us 30 minutes to conduct the business that we need to do for this first session, and so we're gonna have to achieve some happy balance there. We do have different modules, if you want to call them that, or items for discussion that will be presented. Council will, at certain points in the presentation, we'll be able to discuss among ourselves what we've heard, and if there are, there's not going to be really a good equitable way to call on people because we are going to have different topics that we're talking about here. And also, before we get started, I want to say that our Mayor Smith was unable to be here tonight. She is dealing with some health type issues, a seasonal cold, I think. And so she's going to address us before we get started. But I will be running the meeting tonight because it's almost impossible to run a meeting over Zoom. And with that, Ashley, if you'd like to say something to us, please take it away.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick, and thank you everyone that's here and involved. Just this whole process has really just helped me learn again the importance of bringing a diversity of opinions and voices to the table in being able to create a product, an outcome that can be its best form. And I'm just really proud of our community for coming to the table to help solve homelessness and do what's best for our community. Boulder was in the news today for getting a lawsuit for allegedly criminalizing homelessness. But Canyon City has also been in the news, but because we're trying to find solutions and do the best we can to eradicate homeless as much as we can in our community. So thanks for being part of that solution tonight. I'm super excited about this new pollev.com. Hope that gives every single person here a chance to have a voice throughout the meeting and really help us hear everybody tonight. And you will also be given a chance to have discussion, excuse me, discussion, and to speak, as Mayor Pro Tem said at the end. So with that, let's go ahead and move on. Let's see what we can do.
Thank you, Ashley. Ryan, so you want to get us started here?
Sure. So on the screen, we have the instructions on how to join the live polling. So if you go to pollev.com, it's going to prompt you for the poll ID, and it's City of Canyon City 101 or 101. And it will bring up the questions as we're going through the presentation. Folks here present in council chambers or online are welcome to participate, and we'll have instructions on how to join when these different questions come up. So just to give it a shot and see if it's working for everybody, we're going to go ahead and start with a question. And the question is, what do you think causes homelessness?
And would you give us the username again, Ryan?
Yeah, it's City of Canyon City 101.
If I may, Mayor Pro Tem, just because I've done this before, if you don't want to download the app and you just go into your internet browser and type into the browser line pollev.com/City of Canyon City 101. Don't worry about the tilde, even though we normally need to. But that little address that's at the top of the screen, that's what will get you there.
And for this particular type of question, you can actually upvote different items as well. So when you're in the web browser, you can put a thumbs up if you agree with the items that are showing up on your list. All right, I see that's it's slowing down a little bit here. Mental illness and drug abuse. Drug abuse shows up, mental illness shows up quite a few times. Lack of affordable housing, housing costs, addiction, trauma. People who just want to live that way, poor choices, loss of income, people choosing to be there. But mental health and drug issues seem to be the top vote getters. And as you'll see, those tend to be the experts agree with all of those things: chronic health conditions, domestic violence, mental health, substance abuse. Down there at the bottom, those are only in alphabetical order, I believe. So we got to see that the poll EV works, and we'll have some other questions as we go along here. This is a list that the unduplicated individuals by name list that Loaves and Fishes and the Homeless Coalition have put together. As you can see, starting in October 19, we had 340 homeless individuals in Fremont County, going down to this was as of April 30th, I believe, and down to 147. Registered with the group. As of April 30th, these are kind of the intakes and outflow of homelessness within the community. So of the 73 single adults, 2 veterans, 8 that fall in the youth category, and 20 families for that total of 147. Okay, the next poll question: should the city and county respond to families and youth experience homelessness? A is for yes, B is for no, and C is for unsure.
When you say respond, though, that's a very vague question.
So, but the point is, everybody will be reading the words and figuring it out for themselves, and so just choose your best answer. Sure.
So, sorry, I heard a couple of people say Wi-Fi. So the Wi-Fi, the Canyon City is open. So if you click on that, it might be a little bit better than cell service, in case you're having that issue.
Thank you. Technical help is always appreciated.
All right, looks like we have stopped seeing responses come in, 47% yes, 23% no, 30% unsure. I'm assuming that some of that unsure is what does respond mean, so, or not hooked up, okay? Are you not getting any, the question not showing up for you?
We're just having some connection troubles getting into the polling.
Okay. I went back a step, so it shouldn't be locked anymore if you want to try entering again.
And while the poll is unlocked, you can change your mind. You are allowed only one choice. So you can, if you mismark it or change your mind, you can click the correct answer for yourself, and it will allow you that to show up.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Well, we're not entertaining questions yet. I'm sorry, sir.
You guys are asking the questions that you want to answer, but it's just like when you run for office, I came to the meeting, and nobody got to say anything except the moderator who had his list, and this is BS.
There's opportunity later as we go through the presentation.
Only if you have a smartphone. What about this poor guy that doesn't have a smartphone?
Well,
You could have told us ahead of time.
What about the people of Canyon City? We don't all have smartphones.
but this is not an election, and this is not necessarily, if you have the technology.
You're asking for polls.
Yes, ma'am.
These poor guys can't even give their idea of what you're asking.
That is a choice.
No, it's you're making the rules. These guys are here representing the city of Canyon City, not knowing it was gonna be internet. They were here to be a person, and they need to be heard. That's
Well,
all I'm saying.
The,
Found out they was gonna hear things they didn't want to hear. That's right.
that's, I think what we should do is go through the meeting.
What about ask
Ma'am, would you
questions
please,
that already answered?
I'm sorry, ma'am, we need to have some order here so that we can go through the meeting. Let's see how this works. Like I said, this is the first time we've tried this. There may be some glitches that we may not be able to get over tonight, but it is something we're trying to see how it works and see how this process works. The other way that we can do it is
Count raised hands. Nay or yay?
that's a good suggestion. We can
Because
for
we're not internet savvy.
oh, I'm sorry for that, but for the people.
This is the deal. I believe that you set the table prior to this meeting because everybody knew about, most people, this meeting, whether they're at home or here. Had to set the table by saying, we've come up with a new idea. This is what we're going to be doing at this meeting. Please come prepared with a cell phone yada, or if you cannot get that to happen for you anywhere in the community, please respond to us so that we can come up with a viable alternative to what you're trying to essentially say, do, and you're sorry that people can't do it. I mean, the apology is great, but we shouldn't, the community, have to apologize for the council's inability to have forward thinking. We're here.
So, Ryan, how many votes do we have? Is the poll closed right now? And how many?
It's not working.
Ryan, how many votes do we have right now?
I-
Do we have a number? for
I
this?
don't have a number.
We do not have a number. All we have is a percentage. Excuse me? Sure. 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 So the suggestion is that, given that they're. Yes, it does say the poll is locked. Okay, but what we get is a percentage and not a total number of votes. But for the people that would like to vote that do not have a phone, and perhaps we just need to open this up to the floor, how about a show of hands of people who are unsure about the answer to this question? I don't even know what the question is. The question is there on the screen, sir.
Give us a definition of the question.
You have to use your best judgment to see what the words say and answer it yourself.
Is this to say that we're gonna use it to increase taxes to be able to do that? Are these just for your information, so you can get a feel of the community? Or are you using this information to take it and make your final decision?
It's informational. So informational. This is.
Information for what? Information on this homeless situation here, or information for you to get better at your job? What is it?
So we are here trying to find solutions for the problems that we're seeing in our community. And so that's the purpose of this whole meeting. Okay, should the city and county respond to families and youth experiencing homelessness? And I think that you can, excuse me, please, let's have some order here, please. Let me try and interpret this question so that we're all working from the same page. Should the city and county respond to families and youth experiencing homelessness? And I think what the response means is with services, resources, things along those lines.
What kind of services, John?
So just use your best guess what you think the services might be. We do, I'm sorry, this is,
Visitation program? Is it what's there?
yes, Amy.
So I don't know. What I am interpreting this question to mean is we obviously have people who are homeless who live in our community. We do. I'm sorry? We have people who are homeless who are here.
But
So-
are they our citizens that live here?
They are,
Or are they coming from other places?
I'm just trying to give you my interpretation of this specific question, because I heard several people asking for that. So I'm happy to do that, but I think that those types of questions are maybe a little bit further down the road. So I'm happy to do that, but I don't want to derail the meeting agenda. So the way that I interpret that is that we have people who are homeless who are currently in the city and county. And should the city and county do things about the fact that we have people who are families and youth experiencing homelessness who are here? Should we do something about it or should we not? That's the way that I interpret this question.
sure. Want to, excuse me, what do you want?
John, I have a basic suggestion. It seems that you and Councilwoman Driscoll, you have different personal, or don't even understand yourself in ways exactly what this is meaning to ask us. You have to bounce that back off of one another. I'm suggesting, and I'm not saying you have to, but I'm just suggesting, this is a great pilot project. Tonight, I believe, is not the night for the pilot project. I believe you need to scrap it for tonight, go home, work on it, come back and understand definitively, not I think, or this is what you're asking us. And then come back with, and I think this could be a remarkable tool if it were perfected and not using us as guinea pigs tonight. So if I were you, I would just scrap it tonight so there's not more escalation of negative feelings in this room possibly towards the council and what you're trying to accomplish. That's my suggestion.
And we came for a workshop with solutions. We all met multiple times to come up with solutions, and we came for a workshop, and we're not having a workshop. We're having a Q&A.
And what we're getting is your guinea pig program. I say scrap this, come back later.
The,
Ma'am, your answer to the question is, should the city,
John,
the council,
John, can I say something?
you experience
I was just,
respond to that, is do you want the city to spend your money responding to this when it's the responsibility of the church and the individual, not the city to spend our taxes to respond to this?
Yeah, put that question up there.
They want bigger government. This will give you bigger government, more taxes, if you say you want them to respond.
Can you unlock the poll?
Change it.
Unlock.
Gave us a lot to be here tonight. People are here with their valuable time, just as yours. And we need to make it count because sure as God makes little green apples. When the clock strikes 9, you're gonna pound the gavel and say, goodbye, everybody, we're sorry we didn't get to you.
Yeah.
Can this be put to a vote?
And we don't want to be defensive with you, but bringing this to the table tonight, when we came here thinking we're gonna get something and then a pilot project, is making people's emotions more heightened, and it's not gonna go well. And we want it to go well, don't we? Yes.
so Ryan, do you have any thoughts to put you on the spot here?
We can go through the presentation and we can either skip the questions, or if there are questions that you think are more relevant than others, try the polling.
What's the poll gonna be used for?
It's just informational. Just informational.
Take a poll here. What about everybody in this room that wants a poll question tonight, or does we come and want to get the job done?
Well, but, so let's talk about that a little bit. If this is a true workshop, what that really means is we're sitting across the table from each other, and everyone has an opportunity to offer solutions. And I would say with the size of the crowd tonight, that's not going to work. That's not going to be a format that will be productive. If we allow everyone to have their say, I've got right now, over 20 people that have requested to speak. So the issue is can we really have a face-to-face meeting on this? Probably not. Probably one way that the city has approached problems and issues like this in the past is to have representatives from different segments where we sit down and talk things out. A council appoints a committee to look at a particular issue. Council members, do you have any reactions to what we're hearing tonight?
If they have solutions, maybe you could call on people, and if they have a solution, they could come forward and we could consider it. I think that is probably the best way to move forward, is if everybody here has a solution, let them come forward one by one and say what it is. And
We can't have a solution-based meeting until we have all of your vision, which is in this ordinance you put forth, which doesn't have the answers to it. It's just a bunch of line items. We need the police.
then we need to run the presentation. Give them the presentation.
We can't bring forward good solutions.
Right.
I thought through solutions. There aren't any until the answers that you have in mind are put forward.
So what we have in front of council is a draft ordinance, and that is the purpose of this meeting is for council to receive input on the ordinance and solutions to the problems that we see within our communities. That's what we're trying to do here. And we can either proceed with the presentation, or we can do as Councilwoman Stein suggests, which is if we have people with solutions, because this is a workshop and we do expect some people here to have some ideas about solutions.
Was the presentation put out first? I didn't think I saw it.
Yeah, all we're seeing is.
No, we've stopped the present. We're dead in the water right now with the presentation because of the questions from the audience, and so we're trying to craft something on the fly up here.
So if,
Yes.
if,
No, we're listening. Council is speaking right
Right,
now.
okay. We have a presentation based on what we are currently doing, what we've been doing, and then if we could run through that, and then maybe open the floor to possible solutions.
Amy, did you have something?
my only thought was we don't have a lot of time. Everyone's time is very valuable. I wouldn't want us to spend a lot of time going through a presentation that is material that's been covered previously. So I think if there are components in the presentation that maybe shed a little bit more light on what the vision of the ordinance is, and I think I was flipping through it because I'm just seeing it now as well, but that are more about the solution brainstorming and like what it is that we're trying to accomplish, rather than rehashing some of the material that was presented in earlier council meetings. So if it's, and Ryan, sorry to do that as well, but if it's possible to condense the presentation so that it's not rehashing, but it is providing the valuable information that people need, and then hopefully as quickly as possible actually get to some interactive dialogue so that we're able to hear directly from constituents.
Mayor Pro Tem, we prepared a presentation. We called down today to see if we could present that, give it to you on the thumb drive, present that. I think that would answer a lot of questions for these folks, but I wasn't given an answer, and they said, no, you can't do that. So,
She approved me to speak, and then turned out, I thought I was gonna be able to get the projector, but that's a no.
so we can't present to you our ideas
So,
in an organized manner.
so we have a copy of the presentation up here at the podium. There were copies available, I believe, for the audience. So, John.
You've got all of those problems to deal with. Define those problems, then find solution for each one of those problems. What you've got here is just a beginning.
I hear you.
You've still got to get into the details of each one of those types of problems. And then you write down, what is that problem? Okay, what are the possible solutions? Which one's the best? You need more information, so you get more information. And more information creates more problems. You dig into that. It's not something you solve in just an evening.
Correct. That's for sure. Thank you for that, John. So what is, yeah. Okay, Lisa?
I just want to say that I had a vision of what this workshop would look like.
Mm-hmm.
And what I envisioned, to me, it's a workshop format, is it would break up into groups of maybe 10. And we would have a council person at each of our tables to discuss the solutions that we worked hard on and to bring them to your attention and to try and refine them and hone them on how they can help. And then have the chairs of each table get together and discuss what we discussed and find out what solutions we came up with. But this isn't a workshop. And what we were told was we were going to have a workshop. And I think that we can all work together. We've all tried very hard to come up with solutions for you and for us. And we're not being allowed really to express ourselves. And so I just want to say that I see that vision, but that vision's not there.
Thank you for that, Lisa. So, yes, Timmy.
Well, let me say this, you know, you guys, I just want to make this a formal statement as my position. I was here last May 2nd. Do you all recall that we're here? I was here May 2nd. Well, I saw you. I came up and I talked about several things, but the most important thing is I don't believe in whining. I believe coming to the table with the solution. I have taken the personal time and effort to go around to various businesses in this community who I knew were hiring. And I asked them, would you join with me, my brand, to bring to the community of Canyon City and Fremont County at large a job fair that would not only address the invitation for homeless, but as well as any other unemployed Canyon City resident that maybe just didn't know how to go to the job work center here, or just really didn't know how to do those things. I told you all, secondly, I'm not going to go out and hunt for the homeless to come to this workshop. I was going to lay that down at your table. What I brought was I was going to bring the employers coming together, and by the way, those employers that I talked to, and it wasn't one or two Mickey Mouse employers, it was many, that's joined with me and said, that sounds like a really good idea. Okay, do I have your backing that if I go and put myself before City Council and the City of Canyon City and Fremont County and say, let's get this done? They said yes. I presented that to you all. I asked for a response back. Before I left, I said, I'm leaving it at your doorstep to give back to me. Do you know? None of you had the respect for any business person in this community that came to me or that I went to and said, let's do it. Much less respect for me, my brand, and my ability to get things done in this community. That is reprehensible. Ashley sat there, Mayor Ashley Smith. Oh yeah, Timmy, we got everybody here who would be in contact with you. Go back and review. That's what she said. And I'm livid, not just for me, if you can tell, but for the businesses that were offering a solution. A solution for every homeless person here in this town. By the way, I'd like to ask, how many of them are out there volunteering to help clean up this disastrous community after this last snowstorm? It was horrific. How many came forward to the city? How many came forward to the county to say,
Timmy, that's not the subject, that's not the subject of this meeting tonight. Thank you for your input. So, so what would you like to do?
Sorry, I don't have my mic on. I was just saying, I think Ms. Heim's solution is a good one. As the Mayor Pro Tem was mentioning earlier, typically we have smaller groups because it's harder to have a conversation when you have so many people. So I think the idea of breaking us up, breaking y'all up, and having really in-depth conversations about what are the solutions. We've got a problem. What do we want to do about it? I love that idea. I think it's a good one. So I was just saying, I'm game if you are to the rest of council that's here.
Yes, Tim.
You know, and I just want to come back because I would like to hear a little bit more on this, where it's been known that a lot of people, I guess, have already seen it, or in the slide presentation. We don't have the slides. We do have this, but wondering if we could hear just a little bit more of where you came up with this and how it came about. And I don't know.
Is it, Ryan, is it possible if they have it on a thumb drive to display it?
No, we got.
So that everybody in the audience can see it as well?
Yeah, if, Brandon, could we put something up on the screen with the thumb drive?
Poor Brandon. I don't have a thumb drive on me. I emailed everybody with it. Colin's have an email. I can email it.
I've got the email I can forward it to. Yeah, this will have to come down, yes.
He'll email it. Thank you.
So while we're handling the technical
Yes.
considerations here, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, I'm Ashley Shepperly. I am not a public speaker. I'm just passionate about our community, and I actually think this is super great that we're all here together doing this, because wow, teamwork. So, also, I am not against helping the homeless. That is not what my presentation is about.
Just breathe. You got it. Just relax.
Thanks.
You have all those kids out there all the time. We're just a bunch of kids up here too. Okay.
I know. Just pretend I'm doing a tour. Okay, I can do this.
And when you're ready to advance the slides, just say next.
Okay.
And Brandon will take care of that, I think, for you.
Thank you.
Hang on, we're still.
Oh.
Oh.
He gave me a
Oh, good,
little
a clicker.
clicker.
Good, yes. Oh, thank you. Okay, before we get started, I see that Mayor Smith has a comment. Ashley, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I would just like to say that tonight is the fruition of the invitation to let's get together and talk about solutions. And just encourage everyone, give us a chance to work through this. I mean, we only got 5 minutes into the presentation of wanting to ask for people's solutions before mayhem broke loose. Just give us a chance to get through this, and we do want to work together. It's going to take all of us to do that. And happy to see Ashley's slide show up. And please just ask to, in order for the interest of time, to please let John run the meeting so we can hear everybody's voices and we can have that opportunity to sit down and talk to everybody.
Thank you.
Okay.
The other Ash, or
The other Ashley,
say-
yeah. All right, so my feelings are tent communities are not the answer. I think Canyon City can do better than that. A big reason is because they're not humane. So if somebody were to think about their security, they definitely wouldn't be thinking about living in a tent. Canyon City is a small town of just over 16,000 people. I know a majority of what this is being modeled after is Las Cruces, New Mexico, which is a city of over 111,000 people. That is a huge difference from our tiny small town. We started with Loaves and Fishes to support the area to feed the homeless and find work for the homeless. They then added 17 beds. They then built Journey Home, which has
Journey Home. I'm the manager of Journey Home. Cardinal Capital of Wisconsin built it.
Okay.
Loaves and Fishes or any other organization in this town has no responsibility. And Journey Home is having the same problems that they're having at McKinsey Ranch, every place in town.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Just to review that, I did talk to Los Fishes as a board, and the president of the board said that they have some type of ownership of that. That's what she said. Option to buy. You said that you guys were getting it.
I said, we have a case manager there. We are not.
That's not what you said.
We do not own,
Can we proceed with the presentation, please?
Okay. Well, whoever owns it, we have 30 apartment buildings there that the town is able to use. Loaves and Fishes has also just expanded. Again, they now have 38 beds, which I was told are not currently full, so that's also great. So it sounds like we're helping. I think tent communities is a dangerous game. Conditions in homeless encampments can be dangerous to the health. Garbage attracts rodents and other vermin. Food can't be stored, and dishes cannot be washed properly. It facilitates the spreading of foodborne diseases. Hypodermic needles, drug paraphernalia, and even bodily fluids are a few of the hidden dangers in these camps. This is also something we're finding on our farmland and in our irrigation all over our city. In Washington, D.C., Mayor Bowser has begun clearing homeless encampments and relocating the homeless to hotels and low-income apartments. Los Angeles is making a similar move. Why? Because the camps are not working. In 2011, Camp Hope opened. They counted 224 homeless in their area. By 2013, only 2 years later, their homeless rate increased to 466. There is a link on the bottom of those that you guys can go to see their point in time where they listed that. And the point of this is if we build it, they will come. Even if it's only temporary, they will come to see what we're doing. I did some research on Camp Hope, and according to their website, it costs $6,000 per person to get them into a home. Camp Home housed 254 people last year, which is incredible, but that would have cost $1.5 million. And I mean, I think that $1.5 million is better spent on structures instead of tents. Tent communities are not enough. They don't scale up. One way to test the premise of whether a social service is useful, not enabling, is not dangerous, is to ask the question, what if we did this on a massive scale? If we looked at third world countries, amongst some of the poorest people on earth, many millions of which were living in shanty towns, I can assure you that it doesn't scale up. Oh. I don't know what happened. Oh, I must have. This is my fault, sorry. Tent life is not a life. They're not humane. Tent cities set the bar of human dignity way too low. Living on the streets involves exposure to the elements, danger, constant fear, and lack of pride. It doesn't allow for the important nurturing, stability, safety, and other key needs that humans need. Tent cities also fall woefully short of meeting these criteria. Denver has an SOS tent community. Denver allocated $24 million to help with housing and shelter needs in 2021. The Colorado Village Collaborative just went before the City Council seeking an additional almost $4 million contract extension to continue operating and expand on its safe outdoor spaces through the end of 2022, and it was approved in February. This amount of money could have purchased structures and permanent housing. Think of what you can build with $28 million. I did research and I looked up all of the cities and counties that have SOS tent sites. I found 66 of them. Out of all 66 of the counties, only 2 of them came close to our population. One of them was in Washington, which is Camp Unity, and one in Philadelphia. Camp Unity is actually doing really well. It's been there since 2012. I feel like they kind of have a handle on things, but they have a lot of rules. One of them is the camp needs to move to somewhere else in the city every 4 months. That way the homeless don't congregate to one part of the city all of the time. You have to be 18 or older. You have to have a valid ID, no exceptions. They do a background check before they're even allowed in, which I think is great. If the resident is required to leave or they don't pass their background check. They don't just let them out in the community, they actually get them a bus ticket and tell them they can't be there. So they have really strict guidelines. The one in Philadelphia got out of hand. So they had 12,000 people that lived there. When they started allowing tent communities, their numbers actually up to 650 homeless, and they started taking over neighborhoods. So that town actually had to shut everything down. What we do need, I think, is more affordable housing. Our town is growing too fast. We need apartments. We need to stop giving everything away for free. If we're going to offer services, I don't have a problem with that, but if they could also give back to our community. There was a time for you to receive benefits. There was a time when to receive benefits like food stamps or housing, that you were required to be actively searching for a job. If you did not get a job by a certain time, I believe it was 90 days or something, they actually would send you to job training. We need to help them help themselves and stop giving them something for nothing. Our homeless numbers are declining, so I'm not really sure why we need another structure or area for the homeless. And then we only have one chance to get this right. So that's it. I have questions in the end, but those are just to think about. Thank you.
So Ashley, before you leave, Ashley?
Oh, I have Q&A.
Sure, let's dialogue a little bit here. So I did go through your presentation, and I did hear what you said here this evening. Realize that with the proposed ordinance, we are not trying to cure homelessness or provide homes for people. We are not attempting to establish a tent city. What we are attempting to do is provide a temporary place, it's limited in time, where people can find a bed. And the reason for that is because we've passed a couple of ordinances here in the city. One ordinance prohibits camping in our city parks. The other ordinance prohibits sitting or lying down in public rights-of-way. We can't prohibit standing in public rights-of-way because that would apply to all of us. But we do prevent people from just going out and sitting down and panhandling from either sitting or lying. So and if you notice, they're mostly standing. If they're not standing, call the police. And that have to be in the city, by the way, too. It's not the county. So
Just look in front of City Market, that guy sits there every day.
so that's private property. The ordinance applies to public rights of way, not private property. Okay, so the point I'm making is that it seemed to me that your presentation was geared at finding homes for people, and that is something for sure that's on everybody's radar screens, I think, and affordable housing. The lack of affordable housing can be a real economic inhibitor for a community. But we're not trying to address that issue with this ordinance. What we're trying to do is protect the two ordinances we do have from being we can't protect them from being challenged. We can, hopefully, with the actions that we've taken, prevent them from being reversed. What we do know is that I believe it was this morning, it was announced that the ACLU is suing the city of Boulder, which criminalized homelessness and said, hey, you guys, you can't be here, you're essentially criminals.
I did read that article. They were like camping underneath the library awning, and the reason they're getting sued is because they were cited and not removed, but cited.
Cited, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's either a civil offense or a criminal offense. Corey, were you able to find some information on that article or on that situation with the ACLU in Boulder?
I don't have a copy of the complaint, but I know I agree that that's what it's been characterized, but it's also part of a larger scale issue. And frankly, the ACLU's, from what I've read, lawsuit against Boulder is going beyond what it's done with other communities in terms of assuming that it's not about criminalizing homelessness. It's going further than that and suggesting that homeless have a right to live basically wherever they want to.
And so that's the ACLU
But I've
position.
not seen the complaint. It's only based
Yes.
on what I've read, but it's going.
That's your understanding of the ACLU
And that they are trying, I mean, the ACLU has been trying to make policy that makes it harder for local governments to address homelessness. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. And so they are trying to push the envelope beyond the current cases that are out there.
So I have a question.
Sure.
Would you like to be up here? I don't need to be up here.
Well, if you would, please step to the podium. What, excuse me? Oh, it's, okay.
Just real quick, my name is John Barnhart. So question, and I'm familiar with the case that you talk about. It's how you're talking about where out of the Ninth Circuit. So
I
that's
heard you
the
speak
case-
to the
that's right.
commissioners. That is one of many cases.
But that's the big one that was when you start referencing how it went before. Now, I'm aware of what happened with the Supreme Court. They declined to hear it. That doesn't bode well. But when you start talking about a Circuit Court of Appeals in plural, now, unless there's other cases out there, great. But in turn, it sounds like that you passed a city ordinance as far as people sleeping in Veterans Park and all these other places that then put you into the position for this. But ironically, in the state of Nevada, that does sit in that same circuit, it's prohibited acts penalty. Unlawful to engage, lewd, of course, all the sexual acts, but to even sleep in the camps, I mean, they still have that on the Ninth Circuit. So there's states out there where they still protect these public spaces under those same type of guises. And again, I don't want to get it confused. I am certainly not looking to criminalize somebody who's homeless. So I think there's maybe a different view between what you're maybe somewhat trying to tackle. I think everybody's on board. Everybody wants to get to the same space. But again, explaining people ahead of time, and when we're using things like, Court of Appeals and all the rest of that, it was ruled on the court, so it's a done deal. We might as well go home. Well, that's not necessarily true. And you're an attorney, so there's a lot more into it than what I'm ever going to be able to read into it.
And no one has ever said what you're saying. And I don't know where you got that.
Well, I read it out. Actually, I read it out of the fact checks, where it said, and it was written right in. Who's got that fact check article? And it's in here, right? It's in the proposal. What page and what number?
Well, it's in, Mayor actually put it in the daily records, Canyon City, Kent City fact check. And then we found the city of Dix's illegal, we found, let me find it here, the city of Dix illegal encampments. Circuit courts have ruled that municipalities only issue evictions from public land if there's an alternative legal place for the individual to go. That is the Ninth Circuit denied, but there are a bunch of other cases that say that you cannot have ordinances that target the homeless and make being homeless criminal.
So that's where I want to make sure I'm clear.
Hold on.
I want to be clear on that.
Hold on.
I'm not arguing you
I know, but
on targeting homelessness like that. I think the people, what they're upset about is it's not making homelessness criminalized. It's about dealing with the criminals that happen to be homeless. And I think that's the subject where everybody's on board.
Couldn't agree more.
That's all.
But wait, but I think you folks cheered when you talked about, when Mayor Pro Tem talked about the previous steps that the city has taken in terms of prohibiting sitting and lying in the rights of way and encouraging our businesses to trespass folks that are on private property, because the city can't regulate private property. Right. It's the private property owners that have to tell the city, you're not welcome here.
Correct.
And then we can, hold on.
But I understand what you're saying.
Okay,
and I
so
appreciate that input.
there's a whole host of components to how you enforce homelessness. And the minute that you take a step that is perceived to be criminalizing it, whether it is, as the Martin case found, criminalizing it when there is no other place to sleep,
or whether it is targeting panhandling
That's
as
the first-
opposed to how someone is using the right-of-way in a manner that is inconsistent with its purpose. So if I say that asking for money is a crime and asking for directions is not,
That's a First Amendment.
I am criminalizing homelessness. So what the city did is it said, okay, we recognize that, but the right-of-way is used for people to pass by foot and by car.
You
And it
basically
said
have to show as the government what your interest is to not
and the
allow
government's
them to do
interest
that.
has to be something that's acceptable. And in the case of the sitting and lying in the right-of-way, what we made illegal is not using the right-of-way for its intended purpose. So it doesn't matter who you are. If you are sitting or lying in the right-of-way, you're not using the right-of-way for its intended purpose. And so it's all part of a strategy to address the impacts of homelessness. Is it perfect? No. In every community in Colorado, it's a work in progress. But these are all components to a large, I mean, in terms of even the camping ban, there are cases out there that say you have to give folks an opportunity to get their stuff. You have to give them notice in advance. You can't just throw away their belongings. So the city has to take that into account when it is, for example, enforcing its camping ban. Again, the things you have to worry about as an attorney, and I understand protecting the city, because if you don't make the right decision, a court will make the decision for us. I mean, that's just how it works out. And people actually understand that, but they also feel like they want to be included. And I think, I'll just speak for myself, and one councilwoman, I will apologize, that was a bit more of a joke when I said I saw one person in Salida that was homeless. I think I said I saw, I don't think I actually went around and counted them, so I just want to rectify from the county commissioners meeting, I couldn't let that go by when we said we're concerned about that comment. So I think everybody wants to get on board, but I think an outstanding presentation. I think you got some folks that have some phenomenal ideas that are truly vested into it, but they also want to feel like they're being heard. I'll be honest, my impression from the county commissioners meeting, I didn't really appreciate the way some of the county commissioners were being spoken to. So if some folks are going to sit there and tell us, oh, well, this is just a small land ordinance change, what are you upset about? Well, what's your suggestion? Well, again, I think what folks are looking for is that broader conversation. Let's get together, because again, it's a larger fight across the country as a whole. I mean, we understand that. So I appreciate your time, though, and I appreciate what you do. Thank you.
Sir?
Yes,
Sir? I have an article right here on the side of the desk, right here.
Oh, I've seen it.
Right on the corner of the desk, right here. Right here. That's for you.
Oh, I appreciate it.
And that is what happened in Salida, how they are dealing with homelessness.
You understand it was a joke, right, when I said, hey, I saw one person?
You know what? No, I'm not a stand-up comedian, so I'm not very good at that sort of thing.
So
That's all right, but that's the
Thank you.
truth right there.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And I think that we actually didn't get to ask all the questions of Ashley Shepherdly that we wanted to. If you wouldn't mind, Amy.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I just wanted to thank you. It's clear how much time and effort you've put into this. The fact that you've researched the different SOS sites around the country and compared which ones are relevant, kind of apples to apples with Canyon, and then also identified what made one actually work, I think is phenomenally useful and really helpful when we're looking at solutions and when we're looking at what are some tools that might actually make sense. I was really hoping, though, I felt like the last two slides of your presentation are exactly what we should be talking about tonight.
Thank you.
Because those are the questions and concerns that the idea of this ordinance raises. So I would love to I don't know if we go with Ms.
There's
Heim's
just so many
suggestion.
questions, which is why I didn't go over them.
But I don't know if we go with Ms. Heim's suggestion and kind of split up and kind of have those more detailed conversations. But for those of you who don't have the PowerPoint presentation, sorry if this is okay, I don't want to take your words from you.
Go for
but
it.
some of the questions are, where do the homeless go that don't qualify to live in the SOS sites? Will we require our homeless to do volunteer hours every week like Camp Hope requires? Where will it be located? Will it be located in an industrial park far from neighborhoods? Is there a cap on the number of SOS sites? Will there be specific lease term limits on the number of residents? I feel like these are really important questions, and they kind of get at the heart, I think, of probably why one of the two, Camp Unity, maybe succeeded and why the other one didn't. So I feel like that's, for me at least, that's what I was hoping a lot of tonight would be about. It's kind of that more detailed, nitty-gritty, what works, what doesn't. Can we craft something that will work for Canyon and work for here or not? And then if not, what are the other solutions? And actually, honestly, if this does work, we still need lots more solutions. So I just was hoping that we could take the hard work that you've done and really use it a bit, because I think that there's a lot of really great ideas and a lot of really important questions here.
So just a second, maybe perhaps what I'm going to suggest will lead to your question here. What I suggest, Council and Ryan, is that we kind of switch gears away from our presentation, that we ask audience members if they have a solution. Number one, John Emerson is right. We have to identify what the problem is that we're trying to solve. And so if you have a solution, I think that we would like to hear from you. At least I would like to, as the chair of the meeting, I would like to hear from people that have a solution. But first, you're going to need to say what the problem is that you're trying to solve. Okay? So let's give that a try. But yes, your question now.
My question to you.
Please come to the podium.
You and everybody else in here, homeless people and people that are strung out on drugs sleeping underneath the bridges are two different things we got going on in this town, and we know that. I don't think the homeless is the biggest thing. I think it's the people that are strung out on drugs, sleeping underneath bridges and people's backyards is a major problem that we're having, and we need to take that into consideration. You know,
I hear you.
You get people at your front door strung out on heroin in the middle of the night. What are you going to do?
Right.
What would you do if something like that happened? You know the question. You know the answer to that. So my other thing is, I don't think we need to put more law enforcement on to take care of the homeless or the drug people. We need to put that in the schools and protect our kids. So I think that's the other problem we have is the people sleeping in their backyards and in the bridges. They're homeless. They don't want to go have help. They want to live that way. So that's what you need to be addressing.
Thank you. Thank you
Push
for
them
that.
guys out of here.
Right. Just to interject here myself, that is absolutely how I view the problem. That there are different groups of homeless, and the reason everybody is here tonight is because of bad behavior. We've got some really bad actors out there, and those are the people that are causing the problems that need to be solved. Yes, Kate.
Hi. So after our last meeting, I heard someone talk about the way they do things in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. So I reached out to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and I got 3 calls back today from a beat cop on the road, a sergeant, and then the community officer that deals with their codes and enforcement and community outreach.
Outreach.
There we go. And the first officer told me that the starting to fix that problem, the drug problem, and like during Blossom Festival, we were threatened with a machete. We had little boys. He was using foul language. It took 2 police officers to come, and they did not arrest him. They just shoot him along, and it took a really long time, and he was screaming the whole way. Coeur d'Alene arrests them. When you get threatened with a weapon, then they tell you they're going to kill you, and they don't just say, you know, there's a homeless place on down the way, you need to move along. They arrest them. And he said, as soon as we started, and this is not just for homeless, this is for anyone This isn't just a homeless law. This is for anyone that would behave that way. If I behaved that way in the park, I'm pretty sure I would be arrested. So that's the thing. Coeur d'Alene said, and they all three said to me, you have to enforce your laws, and you can't say, oh, well, you're targeting the homeless. No, you're targeting bad behavior, and you're targeting people who are breaking the law and endangering the safety of our citizens. And I said, okay, well, that's valuable information. So I don't want to keep hand-tying our police with threats of law.
So let me stop
Yes.
you there, Kay, and ask a question, because this is with different jurisdictions, different states, you have different laws.
I understand that.
One of the problems that we have here in Colorado is no cash bail. Do you know, does Coeur d'Alene have the no cash bail
Well, they
virus?
talked about that.
Or
They
do
know the
they-
same laws that we were talking about here. They talked about that. They have, their community does have soliciting laws, which I don't know that we can push it that far. You do the thing with standing. They have laws that if someone's standing, soliciting with signs and everything, they have to move. They can't do that within their city limits. They also have ordinances about midnight. They said they have a lot of bars downtown, and they get some rowdy people, and if you're alone on the street, they want to know what you're doing in their downtown street. And he says the more we have interaction with them, and not necessarily hateful interaction, he goes, we're all talking to them because we understand mental health. These are the things we were talking about at our last meeting. They said, we totally understand that. He goes, and we may have the advantage that we may have a few things on our books that they don't allow in Colorado. But he goes, everywhere you can enforce the law.
Well, that is true, but the issue is what happens after the arrest or the citation.
They go to jail.
Well, but see, so they're, excuse me, wait a minute, hang on.
And they do, they incarcerate them.
All right, so
and they have to pay a fine.
Well, but so there's the problem, because we cannot. See, our guys get released right away. We don't have a way, because of the cash bail mess that Denver has made for us, we don't have a way to keep them in jail.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Well, can they come up
Yes.
with the cash to get out of being bailed out?
No cash bail means no cash.
Oh, no cash.
Yeah. If I could, and not, maybe Commander Bell could shed some light on, I don't know if you know about that particular incident with the machete, but in general, if there's a reason why if somebody's being threatened, the individual who's doing the threatening wouldn't be arrested, just since we have CCPD
Well,
here.
we were setting up for the Blossom Festival, and you had to have a permit to be in the band shell. He wanted to set up his stuff, and he was high and a lot of other things, and we politely asked him to leave. He would not, and he got threatening, and he was screaming and yelling and pulling out weapons and waving them, and we did call the sheriff on that, and 2 deputies showed up, and they stood and talked to him, and one finally had to go, and the other one talked to him for probably 30 minutes, and then just shoot him along.
Okay,
And
let's
so
give the commander a
threat
chance.
did not disappear, it's just they made him move from the park.
Thank you for that, Kay. Let's give the commander a chance. Well, we do
Yeah.
have limited time. Thank you. I think we've got the picture.
Okay, and I did want to add one other thing, because at the last meeting, the sheriff said they hardly get any calls. Every person that I've talked to said, well, I gave up. I said, well, don't. Start calling so they know how many people are upset, people are being impacted. The sheriff needs to know, and the police chief needs to know.
And just to expand on that point a little bit more, I did talk with our Combined Regional Communications Authority Executive Director. The software that we have has been tracking the incidents involving homeless since February. Now, it's probably not enough to start generalizing from the data, but that data is available and will be available in the future. And the executive director, is sensitive to this problem, I know that he would like to be able to assist in any way that he can. But Commander Bell, please take over for me here.
Well, thank you for allowing me to interject here. So when it comes to enforcing the law, obviously there's a lot of things that we got to take into consideration. And one of the things that we obviously have to take into consideration is some of the issues that the underlying issues and what causes the homelessness, right? Most of the time though, and I can have Corporal Snyder actually attest to this, when we talk about people who are in the predicament that they're in and they're using narcotics or other substances, illicit substances, typically that is indicative of them medicating another issue. I would say that the biggest issue that we have with homelessness directly revolves around our mental health and the issues surrounding people who are not treated. They don't have the ability or the desire to continue with treatment or medication. And so that's what we're really up against. Rather than take the medication that they're prescribed, they find other ways to deal with it. So when it comes to the drug issue, yes, using illicit narcotics is illegal. However, some of the issue is that use of a unlawful controlled substance is a misdemeanor now, when it used to be a felony. Possession of illicit narcotics, which is greatly defined on how much of that product they actually have in their possession when we actually catch them with it. 4 grams of an illicit substance is a lot, especially when it comes to fentanyl and heroin. 4 grams of fentanyl is what it takes in order to charge somebody with a felony and actually be able to incarcerate them for any amount of time. I'm not actually really sure exactly right now what the jail is accepting, but I can tell you that as of March of 2020, and because of the COVID regulations in the jail, we obviously weren't able to take a lot of people to jail. And it got to a point where the 11th Judicial District as a whole had to give us some direction on how to deal with anybody who committed anything less than a Class 3 felony, which, by the way, is like aggravated robbery, and that's robbery with a weapon. That's, serious assault with serious bodily injury, trying to kill somebody. Short of those types of things, we weren't even able to put people in jail. We had to issue them felony summonses and release them on their own recognizance. So it is a bigger issue, and from the law enforcement perspective, a lot of what we can do, our hands are tied by what the legislation actually says we can do.
Thank you for that. Yes, sir.
My name is Bill Raymer. I'm a resident here of Canyon City for the last 20-some years, 22 years, and I am the actual property manager of Journey Home. And I just want to tell you that solution is first of all, I'd ask anyone in this room if they've ever been involved with cause and effect or process analysis to determine the cause of homelessness, which the presentation showed quite a bit of information. But I still have the same problem with my property as anyone else in this town. I read the paper last time it was published, and we have the same problems you do. 33% of the people that was placed in Journey Home over the last 4 years have been vacated because they do not have to obtain behavior change because we're restricted by fair housing. So I disagree with the young lady, Ashley, that housing is a permanent, it's not going to change your behavior. It's not going to change your behavior. Now we have to talk about fair housing. Your hands will be tied once you go into housing. Solution is have something like you mentioned. These are great ideas that you put forth, but there has to be accountability. Accountability to the team that actually puts things in place. Who's going to hold them accountable? Intakes, needs assessment, service planning. Who's going to observe and evaluate if they're living up to their conditions? Who's going to do that? Who's going to pay for it? I'm not going to pay for it. My taxes have doubled, if not tripled, since I moved here. And I don't want my taxes, so is there an organization that's going to pay for that? We don't want to pay for that. And once again, housing is not the solution. Once, permanent supportive housing first is stupid. I'm sorry, I work for the organization, but it is stupid. Your hands are tied once you house somebody. We must have accountability on the person that's obtaining housing, or not necessarily housing, a tent, or so we have to have accountability to the team. SOS, I don't know if you know it, at least 2 people have died why the SOS place was put in place. It wasn't even in the newspaper. I contacted the newspaper and asked them if they would actually print that. Carrie went to the police department and they didn't give her that information. And I'm not putting it at fault at the police department. They've been great. I've had Commander Bell at my presentation of our neighborhood watch. I've had the police chief. They're great people. But these people, the accountability is essential by who's staying in the building or staying in wherever they're staying, and the people that are going to be running this organization or running this. Is there supportive services? Who's going to be involved? Is the physical site is going to be maintained? I know you say that, but who is going to do that? And then the question is, I just want to make one more thing here, is advocates of the SOS continue to use the term safe, open spaces. I ask the word safe to be defined. From whom are they being saved from? Safe from, I'm not going into their tents and ransacking them. Are they being safe from who? I think they're being safe because from the ordinances. They can stay in that place, and we say, oh, we can't have tents in the city, but when the county and the city come together and say, let's put up tents, that's breaking our own ordinances, and they're being safe from that. So I would just once again recommend who's going to hold these people accountable. I have contact with an organization in Florence, and the person that's running that organization goes on the streets and tells people they can get off the street. They don't want to get off the street. Most of them are there because they want to, or they know they can be housed at Journey Home eventually, but then I have to evict them because they don't want to be accountable to the lease, simple lease that everyone holds. So once again, I would suggest that Canyon City, Fremont County does not build a place, put millions of dollars into, because now we're going to talk about fair housing.
Let's dialogue a little bit, because you have some conclusions there that are not warranted by what the ordinance says in front of us. Those are good questions. Who is going to be accountable for behaviors within, if this does pass, if there is created a safe space? Number one, the city and the county are not going to be creating this or organizing or funding this space. Okay, whether we call it safe or not.
I understand. I'm just being proactive to make sure that the residents of Canyon City stand behind your decision right now not to fund something like this.
Well, but so speaking for myself, I have no intention of spending city funds to set up tents, to provide the management, to provide the structure for any type of encampment. What we are attempting to do is allow the organizations that have expertise in this area, if they so choose, to step forward and do that. And so keep in mind, that's not the intent of either myself as a council member or this ordinance, is for city or county to be running these things. What we're trying to do is set up the structure where others can run it, and those questions that you ask have to be answered before any approvals could be given. So
right. I read the article in the paper, and I understand what you're saying, and I'm sorry if I alluded to the idea that the city, I just want to make sure the city doesn't backtrack and jump into this.
Fair enough.
And do that. But once again, there's people out there that have these grand ideas, and those people have great ideas, but people that have great ideas typically don't have very little follow-through. And then there's people out there that just like to go ahead and step alongside and help people because they're codependent. They're codependent, and they're making them feel good, and we're making the homeless people feel good. And I'm sorry, I mean, Journey Home has its ups and downs, but we have problems too, 33%. And the reason why, if I have to say my opinion is because they're not required to seek any services whatsoever. If it's for mental illness, if it's for addiction, then they can't even follow a simple lease of not letting someone in the emergency back door.
Thank you.
So that was my opinion.
That's good information
So.
for us to have. Thank you. Yeah, Lisa.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Lisa Hyams. First of all, I want to thank the Canyon City Police Department. In the last while, we had stopped calling because we knew that their hands were tied. It wasn't that they didn't want to do anything, it's that they couldn't do anything. And we have cranked it up. I probably visit our properties anywhere from 3 to 5 times a day, patrolling our properties, taking photographs of vehicles that are on our properties where they suspect drug deals are being done, and providing that information to the chief. He and I have exchanged some excellent dialogue, and he wants to be able to keep track of that so they can start laying a pattern. We need to, it has, I will tell you that the parking and the bikes that go through the East Main property have definitely been diminished since Will and I have cranked it up, and since people have been arrested there. And they have been arrested. And they've been arrested for felonies because we are of course, not a Class 3, but we are agricultural property, and it is a felony.
Excuse me, what is a felony?
Trespassing,
trespassing
on agricultural property.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification.
And the people that they did arrest recently, they found drugs on. So it just compounds itself. So I do want to thank them for always coming and always being courteous and understanding the problem that we're dealing with. What I want to say about the what we can do with the homeless, because we're here for solutions. And what I feel we ought to do is, if someone is here that refuses to abide by the rules, as they were talking about, and as several of us talked about, they don't get services. They don't get our help. If they're not willing to be a part and want to make things better for themselves, if all they are drug addicts and criminals, we should not enable them by providing them services. Okay, now, direct them into a drug program? Absolutely. But as far as feeding them, providing them with showers and everything else, I say don't enable them. That puts the money that the different departments have into the people that truly want to better their position. Mental health issues is a huge problem. I understand that. Manny worked for the state hospital in Pueblo for over 30 years. He knows mental health probably better than anybody in this room. And the veteran issue is another serious issue that our country needs to address, because there are many veterans that don't want to be in a shelter. They can't handle it. So we need to find a way that we can maybe help those veterans, provided we're not dealing with another drug issue. I mean, just because they're a veteran doesn't mean they're a good person. They were a good person, very possibly. But
I believe that, and I'm going to morph kind of into the SOS now, because we're at 7:30. And with the SOS, one of the things that Dee Dee mentioned was they would regularly have people at the entrance. Regularly doesn't cover people coming in and out, bringing drugs in and out, bringing stolen items in and out. There needs to be someone at the door 24/7 that monitors, because it's going to be gated, because it's a safe zone for the people that are living there. So there has to be someone there 24/7 watching that gate and monitoring who comes in and who comes out. Just occasionally or regularly is not good enough. The other thing is, why do we need to change the ordinance? Hear me out. I know that's a question you're asking. We give variances all the time. Why, if someone comes up and presents a valid SOS to you and has all of their information and their ducks in a row and they have everything covered, why can't you look at a variance to that ordinance for that one instance, rather than opening up a can of worms to every single potential nonprofit putting on an SOS?
Gotcha. Understand the question.
So that's another thing. The other thing is, a problem that we have on Grandview is there isn't any real safe access from the west to the east where the services lie. There have been people hit and killed on Highway 50 that were trying to come from Walmart and make it across the street back to Loaves and Fishes. I suggest that the city work very hard, and I know Todd, come up here, because he's put together a map that he can show you. I suggest that they work with the Department of Transportation, and I know that that is like an impossible task, but I think that if you talk to them about saving lives and about working together to create solutions for what would help the people on Grandview, would to provide safe travel for people from either Walmart or from the west side of town along the frontage road on Fremont Drive, and then take them down into a bridge, a tunnel that goes underneath the 4 Mile Bridge and across to the east, which would provide safe access. They don't even have to hit the signal button and walk on the walk sign. If it also was a bike path, people could get from east to west safely. And that's what we're about right now, is safety. And the other thing is it would solve the problem under the 4 Mile Bridge, because it's now a public way that they can't sleep on or camp on. So it solves many issues. Todd, you had something you wanted to ask about this.
Well, hang on here.
Yes,
Please
sir.
hold on. We do have some questions from council or comments from council. Amy, did I miss a question from you? Okay, yeah, Tim, did you have something?
Thank you, Lisa. What you've said is fantastic, and I just have one question. And
Yes, sir.
And then it's not an arguing question, but.
Oh, come on, let's get into it, Tim.
Do you want to go at it? What do we do with those who refuse to go to help, to just want to stay on the street and absolutely that it? That's the one thing
We
that.
don't make their life easy.
Okay,
With ordinances, with restrictions. We're not targeting homeless.
No, I understand
Yeah,
that. No,
but-
I really understand. But to take it where you went the one way, but there's going to be those few, could be many, we don't know.
We're always going to have issues.
Right, and I'm just wondering if there's any thoughts to.
But if we're not
It's
easy money.
It's to that, and it's hard to cut off the money. You'd have to, and I understand that, it's a money thing. But I think, in general, There's always gonna be that person who's gonna stop and give them money?
There's obviously gonna be some. But
Right.
as Mike said, when he made his presentation here at the regular council meeting, he was told they came down here because money was easy. And we don't want to have money easy. We want to help the people that want to be helped, not the ones who don't. And also with the SOS, are we going to have background checks like Ashley mentioned? Because I'll tell you, I spoke with the DA up in the Denver area just almost 2 weeks ago, and he said crime is rampant in their SOS. What is going on up in there because they aren't monitoring it properly. And he is constantly trying people that have broken the law within the SOS because they aren't monitoring the situation. There has to be strict guidelines. We have to help the people that want to be helped, that truly want to be a positive statistic and not be easy money. And Todd has a couple of things to mention.
Just one thing though. I want to point out that what we're trying to do is talk about solutions. We'll talk about tweaking the ordinance in our next block of time that we have, that we're already eating into. But Amy, yes, go ahead.
Sorry, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I did want to follow up on one of your suggestions, Ms.
Yes.
Sims, because I thought since we have our attorney here, he might be able to shed light on your idea of is it possible to do something like this through a variance rather than creating a new ordinance?
No, statute, or the law doesn't allow what's called a use variance, which is exactly what it would be doing. You'd be allowing a use that's not allowed. If you look at the way this ordinance is crafted, it is essentially saying on a temporary basis, this is a use that would be allowed if you meet certain criteria. And so a lot of the criteria are intended to address a lot of the things that are identified here that we don't currently have in place, including things like plans to assure minimize impacts on neighboring properties. There's one other thing that you said that I want to address that's, I think, really important, that has been a huge tool, especially in the metro area, and that is working with other governmental entities such as CDOT to close areas that shouldn't be open to the public and have trespass signs, much like I mentioned with private property. If entities such as CDOT are willing to work with us and say that this area is not open to the public, they can put up trespassing signage and we can enforce it. So it's another example of tools that we need the owners of property to assist us in being able to make it more difficult to camp in other places.
And thank you for that, but I think that changing the ordinance across the board opens up a plethora of potential problems. I think that maybe we can go back to the drawing board to find out what we can do on maybe how we can make a variance or what we can do in language in the ordinance. But once we open that up, it's open to everybody. There's no cap. Anybody can do this if they follow the guidelines, correct?
Well, that's something that we'll be discussing in the next.
And that's one of our concerns,
Yeah.
is that it opens the door. Again, we don't mind helping our homeless. We just don't want to help everybody else's homeless.
Well, hang on.
Yes.
We've got several people that need to speak here, including our mayor.
Okay, well,
but-
Todd just
but
had something to
hang
add.
on. I want to address that particular issue, Lisa, because the issue is our Constitution and the type of government that we have says that citizens can freely live wherever they choose, and that you cannot criminalize those choices.
But we
Okay?
don't have to give them services.
Well, that's a different thing. What I'm addressing is you saying that they're not our homeless, okay? The point is that I don't think there's a way to justify that either prevents me from sitting on council, I was not born here, or prevents you from speaking to council, you were not born here. And so I would like to move, I would like us to move away from the idea of saying they're not our homeless. If someone freely chooses to live here in this city, the issue is if they behave badly, what can we do about those behaviors? Okay, so please don't speak of them as our homeless or not our homeless.
Well,
I understand the concern.
I have a freedom of speech to
Yes, you
speak
do.
about it how I want.
Yes, you
And that's
do.
how I speak. So I'd like Todd now to address that.
Well, hang on, no, wait a minute, I'm sorry, wait a minute. We have a couple other people. Mayor Smith, did you have something that you wanted to say?
I was just going to say that thank you, Lisa, for really coming up and having some really awesome solutions and ideas. And I really love the, Corey, the idea of reaching out to CDOT and addressing that issue. I mean, the SOS is one of the topics tonight, but we're going to have lots of things out of tonight that I hope that we can enforce and make happen. And if the variance can't happen for an SOS, I would definitely like to change that dialogue that if City Council were to pass one, that originally in the first reading, we wanted to have a lot of specific rules and guidelines placed in the ordinance. It was suggested that should be done just administratively, but I feel like the passion and the concern is so strong that we do need to consider actually putting things in the ordinance that says, if there maybe, and this is up for the committee, for you all to decide, and that's where we had some opportunities for polls and raisings of hands to say, what would you think? What would you be comfortable with? Would you be comfortable if there was one camp with only a maximum of 10 people that was open 4 months, as long as there were background checks, the limit, 24/7 management, cleanup plans that were done regularly, all of those things that are that the community is saying, this is what we want addressed, have that in the ordinance. So if someone went to get a permit, they have to demonstrate that they do all of those things. And that this SOS solution is very minimal, has a tiny minimal impact on the community, but will still help bring some people out of homelessness. And so that was one idea, this Councilmember Schmischer's idea of codifying those things. That is very strict, very regulated, and kept very small and controlled. So I hope that if we can do that, this will kind of help that conversation as we move forward. Lots of solutions, but also what can we put in the code to make this a comfortable situation to move forward.
Thank you, and
Thank you, Ashley.
is it all right if we go to our speaker?
I have a question for Lisa.
Yes, sir.
Lisa, I'm hearing you talk, and I feel like I'm hearing concerns about whether or not a nonprofit from outside of the area would come in and set this up. Is that a concern?
No, we have 124 plus nonprofits
I know.
in Fremont County. And I don't know how many of them are actually in the city. But seeing as we're talking about city property, they would have to be within the city. But with that amount of nonprofits, I mean, it really could open something up huge.
Okay.
That has the potential. That's my concern.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Todd?
You guys have what I put up there on the trying to help with solution. That's fine. I'm not going to think there. A couple questions I just had on that with the ordinance itself, and I just circled these. Was like B of number 4, waste disposal and needle disposal. When I know that we have to provide. I'm a diabetic. I understand putting that there kind of thing, but if they're not doing drugs, we shouldn't have to have the needle disposal. I mean, I'm just saying there's things that seems to encourage the behavior that we're fighting against. I mean, we all said it's the drugs is the problem, and and another thing, how do you deal with part of that? We deal with a lot of the homeless. None of them want us to call the police. because no offense, they don't want to deal with you guys. I think you do a wonderful job, but they don't want to have to deal with that in any way, shape, or form. Now, I realize that puts an extra barrier upon, or burden upon our police, and I'm not trying to do that, but the more that they are contacted for those, I get it that they can't do anything, but they don't even want to deal with them at all. And so that's a process as well. The concern that was out there that was posted about, or that said about who is going to keep these people accountable, we think that as the city, if you're going to let, they're going to spend hundreds of dollars. I know how much it costs to put my security system in, cameras in, fences in. If a nonprofit's going to put that kind of money in, I'm going to tell you right now, they're going to be in front of this board and asking for a variance to go from temporary to permanent very quickly, because they put that much money into that. And that's a lot of money to put into something. I mean, our organization as a 501c3 could not do that. But whoever does or has that ability, their fences, all that stuff, that's a lot of funds that's going into this. They're not seeing anything out unless they're getting it from a grant or whatever else. But I'm saying that there needs to be some stuff in here that says, here's the consequences if it's not taken care of, is what I would say as far as an ordinance goes. We would feel better about it if there was something in there that said, okay, they're not doing this, you know, how do we deal with that?
How do we enforce the ordinance?
Yeah,
Gotcha.
and I mean, I get it that the police enforce that stuff, but there needs to be something from here that says, if this isn't met, then here's the consequences, it'll be closed down. And I get it, there can be warnings and all those things. It's just a question I had on both of those, so.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Amy?
Not to put Ms. Shepperly on the spot, but I am wondering if in your research into Camp Unity Eastside, I know you had mentioned that they had to move every 4 months. I'm wondering if you have any insight into how they did that, given what the pastor had just mentioned in terms of the cost of the move. Sorry, I'm sorry, just because there might be people watching on Facebook and we would want them to be able to hear you as well.
I'll stand with you, actually, because I'm going to speak next. Yeah, Mariah's going to speak next. So what they did was they asked for community volunteers. They actually even had like something put in the newspaper about it, and the community would come together and help move them. They would move from like church to church. One of the news articles even talks about like, hey, thanks for the volunteers. It was raining all day, but we had to get out by today. So they just asked for volunteers. Yeah.
And sorry, if I may, I think that kind of opens up one of the elephants in the room from my perspective, because this ordinance is two separate things. One is the SOS and one is churches being allowed to operate as overnight shelters. And I feel like we've talked 1,000 or 100% about the SOSs, and I'm wondering if people have concerns about churches operating as overnight shelters or not.
They are part of the 501c3s that could be taking advantage of this ordinance that passes, because they would be under that umbrella, so that is a
For sure. Sorry, and I did not ask my question clearly enough, Mrs. Finney, I'm sorry. I mean, not necessarily a church setting up an SOS, but a church allowing individuals to stay in the church on really cold nights.
Like indoors?
Uh-huh. So that's kind of the second half of the ordinance, is the idea that churches, if they so chose, and again, following some guidelines, would be able to allow people to sleep in their church if they chose to do so.
Sure. I'm gonna go.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think that while creating more solutions, before we take care of all these other issues that we have without this ordinance in place, I'm happy to hear that some people had positive results from calling law enforcement for their issues. I myself have never had any positive results, and I deal with this problem every day. I believe that threatening to murder someone with a machete is illegal, no matter if you're homeless or not. And I know that I deal with a lot of people on my property. I've had people expose themselves to me, threaten to commit sexual assault against me. I have to, as a business owner, I have to reach out and do the right thing and call law enforcement, and I've never had any help for any of those things. And it does seem like it is kind of a shoo it on down the road. My brother is a cop here in Fremont County. I'm not against law enforcement. I'm also not against helping the homeless, but I am against putting in new solutions whenever we're not already on top of the issues that we do have. Resources are available to everyone, whether you're homeless or not. Free resources are available, and it is a choice. Not everyone that's homeless is on drugs or a bad person, and that's just the truth. I myself have what's not a registered nonprofit because I didn't need the recognition. I make, kits for the homeless, and I give food to the homeless, not through the name of my business or through the name of myself. I've never told anyone, now you guys know. And I think that should support that I'm not just against, I do want there to be solutions. I want my community to be safe, and I want to be safe and my son to be safe, but we're not already. And I think, like the gentleman before me said with the putting in about the needle disposal, we already know that there's going to be drugs in there. They get drugs in prison. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't keep it out. And I believe that, I'm sorry, I'm going through my notes. I just wrote it all down just really super fast. Basically, it's not, we were saying, we're asking ourselves what the problem is. Homelessness and a lack of safety. And this is going to solve neither one of those. I do believe that it's unsafe. I believe that it would, and we're moving them around, so we're spreading it around, you know what I mean? And then these, homeless individuals, the bad ones that we're referring to, they're going to familiarize themselves with these different parts of towns. They're going to familiarize themselves with the homeowners that aren't as on top. Maybe they're a little older. Maybe they don't make it around their property. They're going to find the places that they can squat a little longer, because that, I think is another thing. They're always asking me, like, what about just one night? Or can I sit here for the rest of the afternoon? And then it does turn into a permanent thing. So we use the term temporary earlier, but I don't believe that this is a solution, much less a temporary solution. I believe it's going to become a permanent problem because we will invite more homeless to this area. It's not going to get anybody off of the streets. Thank you. So I believe that we need to address, what we can do to, people do need to be held accountable. You know what I'm saying? I know just the other day, I had a woman that was screaming at nobody in my parking lot. She was very visibly on drugs, and she had the ingredients to these drugs in her car, and she's riding around with an expired tag. And much like the man with the machete, I can't chase someone with a machete and not go to jail. I also can't, do meth or have expired tags or any of those things, but I called law enforcement, and one officer came, and nothing was done. Another officer came, and I was like, look, I deal with this, everywhere. Eventually, the woman just abandoned her things and never came back, and then there's the issue with, what to do with their things. I don't feel comfortable with any SOS tent situation because it is doing the same thing in different places. Do we absolutely have to change this ordinance right now? Is it, or at all, are we being forced to do this right now? Or, is it something that we could stop and focus on, other things that need to be fixed before we move to the, I don't believe that we're prepared or ready for that next level. Thank you. Do any of you have any questions for me?
I do. I have a question. So since you've been dealing with this for a long time, and where is your business?
I own Mountain Wookiees.
Okay. All right.
So it's right on 50.
Okay. So what do you, you are probably in a really good position to have maybe some suggestion for a solution. What would you do? If you were up here, if you, what would you What would you see as a good solution?
Yes, ma'am, that's a great question. And first, I would like to say that you can't give a solution to somebody that doesn't want it. You know, it is a choice, and like I said, the resources are out there. We can put, you know, programs in place that you have to, you know, pass your drug test, you know, seek mental health if that's necessary, you know, be, you know, actively searching for a job, community service, whatever you have for the people that choose that. And that goes back to what I said a second ago. But for those that don't choose it, there is nothing that we can do. There's nothing that we can do for people who won't choose to do the right thing. You know, anyways, they're going to come into this tent city and they're going to continue to live their lives. I don't know if any of you are personally familiar with addiction. That's one of the biggest problems that we have with the homelessness. Not a lot of them make it out, you know, and it is a sad thing. You know, it is absolutely devastating and heartbreaking, but there is simply not anything that we can do to force those people to stop taking drugs, become better people, or become a functioning member of society, which we all are.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tim, did you have a comment? Tim?
You know, I had a comment, and thank you.
Yes, sir.
And I agree with you. This, you know, this is a tough, absolutely tough deal that we're all dealing with in this. The country has a tough problem with homelessness right now.
Yes, sir.
But I go back to, what do we do? I know that there's, and I know, what do we do with those ones that don't want help? And I'm not saying this directly at you. I think that's all. But you know what? That becomes against the law, and I don't mean that smart. And you can buy him a bus ticket and hand it to him.
They do.
But they do not have to get on that bus.
That's true. That is true.
And I understand, guys, the frustration. I'll be honest. I had a homeless man walking down my street the other day. I live on a dead end up in Lincoln Park. My son and I watched him because he went. I'm the second house from the end on my street. I watched him all the way down. We were kind of in a hurry to go somewhere, but you know what? I was nervous. I was a little nervous of where he was going and was he going onto my property. So I sat there for almost 10 minutes watching. So even though I'm sitting up here, this is a subject that hits me too. You know, and I want my family safe. That's number one in my priority, and my city safe. But right there, that's my little boy. And if he's out and somebody's coming up to him, it's a problem we all have. But I mean, we're trying to come up with solutions and different things. I want to see this a cured problem. Is it ever going to be a cured problem?
Well,
I think
Tim,
we can all agree on saying no on that. But there's been some great, Ms. Himes put some very good options out there. I know where your business is. I know you guys.
I know you.
Absolutely. You
Yes,
know, it is a tough subject here. And yes, we can offer them bus tickets. Who buys them?
Tim, I would also like to add that I have another retail business on South Nevada in Colorado Springs, and I believe everybody in here is familiar with that road. It is getting a little better, you know, thank goodness, but there are problems, you know, we don't want to see on our streets. It is bad. I come into my store, there is human feces and a drunk or knotted out with needles still hanging out of their arm, and I have to go in there because law enforcement doesn't, you know, return my calls, not here nor there. And I know that that's a different county, but it's all relevant because those are the people that are going to be coming down here. You know, I have to chase them off in the middle of the night, you know, and my son's asleep in the back seat and I'm scared, but I have to take care of my business just like you have to take care of your property. I believe, like you were asking about the you know, the criminal homeless. What is the solution for criminals? You know, not the home, because it's not about them being homeless, it's about them being criminals. You know, so that is that they answer for breaking the law. And nobody that I've ever had to call the law on has answered for that. I'm deeply disturbed to hear the story, and I heard it before the woman said it up here about the machete. That's insane. You know, I would never chase somebody with a machete, but I'm certain that if I did, I would do some time in prison. You know, so that is my answer to your question, Tim, is that we have to hold them accountable as Americans that have to abide by the same laws that we do.
And we need to move on, but I would just make the comment, you know, we have identified the problem here tonight as, that we're pretty much focused on as the bad behavior guys and gals. And but I would ask you all to keep in mind that there are people that are homeless that can be helped. And, you know, the job that the 501(c)(3)s do for those people is great and appreciated. And I wish that our bad behaviors could be moved into that category, the ones that are ready to accept help. But that's part of what our challenge is here tonight. Listen, it's 8 o'clock. I know we've got people lined up to talk. Can we move to the next person? What we need to do here is take a break. And so after the next two speakers, we're going to take a break, and then we'll reconvene.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to address your question about the churches, because I probably represent one since I'm a minister. Our churches in this community are ready to help in a crisis in any moment. I wasn't here, but I believe in the 90s there was a bus crash, and our church opened up, and Red Cross, we still have the Red Cross cots and things to take care of people. That's not a problem. We'll be glad to do those things. As far as giving people permission, the liability that's upon us, that our liability insurance would increase so much that we wouldn't even be able to function as a church to be able to do that side of things. Do we need to help? We help people? Yes, we have meal things. We do stuff that we can, and everybody does. All the churches have different areas that they help that way, and they would be glad to do that in a heartbeat. Like we deal with probably more than the rest of the churches is the trespassing on a regular basis. And so that's where we're at, and I get it, and that's why we're just looking at the criminal side of stuff. But as far as I know, I can speak for our church, but the rest of the churches, I'm sure as well, are ready to help in a heartbeat when a crisis situation or something like that comes. If there was, I mean, the way our weather's been, who knows, wind, whatever. If it was like just super cold, whatever, we wouldn't actually do anything without the city's recommendation or approval with that, just because of we fall in your guys' jurisdiction and fall into that. We don't want to do anything to lose our 501(c)(3) status, but also we do want to help. So I know the churches that the ministers that I know and stuff, we would be glad to help in any way. And we try to help with these things, but like our problem is that we deal with is that people just, the same issues that we're looking at, they don't want to follow the rules, the directions. We've had to remove homeless in the last 2 weeks from our services, which they are welcome to come to, but when they're being disruptive and not allowing our regular worship service to happen, our security team had to remove them. And it's just what we have to do sometimes, and it's not what we want to do, but it's where we're at. But as far as the churches, they're ready to help. I don't think they're ready to help have people in their building for that thing. And it's not a community building. We have meetings there for community whatever, but we wouldn't allow alcohol, drugs, any of the things, same things that you guys are having in this. And my suggestion is just, before it quickly gets passed or whatever, maybe do a little more detailed work in that ordinance to address some of the issues that everybody has. That would be my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you. Will.
Thanks for letting me speak, and I'll be as brief as possible. First off, I think this meeting is even better than the last one. The last one was very entertaining, by the way. Some people have really brought some great ideas that I'm actually blown away with. And it's, by the way this meeting started out, I would never believe that I'm saying this now. But I find it interesting that you guys are putting this ordinance out to hopefully protect the city from getting potentially sued in the future, potentially. And if you look at the history of what we've done here, I mean, I think Loaves and Fishes does a great job. They came here, they expanded, they're expanding again. You have Journey Homes. But this reminds me of a dog chasing its tail. We're not going to fix homelessness tonight. It's not going to happen in Little Canyon City. But it reminds me of a dog chasing its tail. We go around and around and around. You know how you stop a dog from chasing its tail? He stops. And if we stop, we don't need a small, I heard, it kind of makes me laugh, you guys have tent in the ordinance, yet you don't want us to call it a tent city. But it's a small, 7, 10 units or tents or whatever. But then next year it's going to be another 7 or 10 or 15. It's this circle of life that we run through. We just keep adding more and more and more to it. And it just seems like to me, just stop. We don't need it. Homelessness is going down. Your numbers have proven that over and over again. I believe somebody was up here 2 weeks ago showing how the numbers have gone down. Why do we need the tent city at all? And several of us have asked that. I'm baffled. If it's just to keep us from getting potentially sued in the future, is 7 tents? I guarantee you guys will fill up 7 tents less than 24 hours. Great, we're right back at the same problem. We'll need another 7 tents. So again, it reminds me of a dog chasing its tail. You got to stop. Thank you for your time.
I was just wondering, Mayor Pro Tem, if there's someone here who could talk to that as to why it is an important component within the spectrum. I think and Ashley wants to talk here. I think that the issue is that if you have a weather emergency or severe weather, that people need beds and there's not beds. That's kind of the problem, the tiny problem that we're focused on with this ordinance. And so that's the idea is that if you can't provide a bed, you can't enforce your ordinance against camping. Thank you. I meant more, and perhaps the mayor was going to speak to it, so I'll pause.
Ashley.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, and I asked Loaves and Fishes, I'm like, is this something, worth really pursuing? Do we really need this bad, considering the community pushback? And part of that answer was it's not, the legality part of it, or being safe from lawsuit, that's a part of the conversation, but the biggest part is during those last 3 years of intense fight to reduce homelessness, it's taken a multiplicity of many different kinds of tools, because it's not a one-size-fits-all. Lots of different solutions, lots of different tools. Some people respond better to some solutions than others. And during the SOS pilot, it was found that this solution was a good fit for at least 15 people to get out of homelessness. And those 15 people that got out of homelessness in that 6-month period helped create that statistic of reducing homelessness overall by 60%. So the ultimate goal is for those who aren't ready to go inside shelters is to take that first step into living a responsible life and practicing how to be in a community and adhering to rules and being able to get the help from Rocky Mountain Behavioral Health. 15 people's lives were changed. And so that's part of that. It's just one tool that seemed to work. And granted, it's going to need a lot of regulations around it to keep it successful. But let's not, I think that's, for me, that was the overall motivation.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Gary Nines is my name, and I have one remark. I think we got to stay on the right track. You don't make things better for 100 people by making them worse for 15,000.
So remember, this is just for talking about there's 7 to 9 people at one time.
Hang on, Ashley, hang on just a second. Hang on. Okay, please go ahead.
I was going to say, just remember, it's just that existing SOS is only 7 to 9 people there at a time, and a future SOS, whatever is decided by the group to codify it, it'd be a similar, very small number. And with all of this, I had this ginormous list of all the regulations. This is not a free, happy giveaway ride. This is definitely only for people who are really wanting to make their lives better.
Okay, we're going to take a 10-minute break here, and then we'll reconvene to talk about the ordinance itself. We need to get going. Take your seats, please.
Hey guys, can we quiet down a minute so we can get going?
Take your seats, please. Thank you all. Our intent is to move to now talk about the draft ordinance itself, and I think that what the intention here is to hear suggestions for improvement to the ordinance, to see where we can address some of the concerns that have been raised here tonight. But with that, ma'am, you wanted to say something?
I do. My name's Joy Javernick, and I think what I've learned from the evening is that the ordinance is not very well defined. The purpose so far has been put out that the camps are for safety, and then Mayor Ashley was pointed out that it was for rehabilitation for 7 to 10 families or tents. When I came to the meeting, I felt like the whole point was we're going to put up a big tent camp, the big city, we're going to let people in. Well, that's needing to be defined in the ordinance or the variance or whatever comes up. It needs to be very clear on the purpose and size and how these people are going to get to these cities or rehabilitation. Do you go hand select them? You find your people and you bring them in. They show up, they apply. All that needs to be put into this, whatever's the future of it. It's very unclear. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Manny, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yes, sir. My name is Manny Colin. I live at 3175 Grandview in the county and not in the city. And I would like to talk to you about the ordinance and what I've heard here tonight. Before I do, though, I'd like to clarify some things. When you started the meeting, you indicated that there was going to be a city council meeting coming up, the next city council meeting, and the ordinance would come before that?
Sorry, I misspoke. It's not until June 20th.
It's what?
June 20th.
June 20th. And so that will come up to the council for voting at that time.
Correct.
One other clarification, a couple times you used city and county in responding, and based on the meeting I attended last week, I didn't hear that support from the county. I heard what the city wanted to do with the ordinance. So that was part of the clarification that I wanted to make a point of. The next one is a lot of people have given ideas. I feel real bad because we all start working and we work at our job and we don't go in and do research. I think with the audience here and the number of people, if all of us would sit down and really do some computer work and look, I looked at a few things. I looked at some problems in Kansas City, Oklahoma City. Oklahoma has an awful lot of stuff going both directions, a lot of legal things, and I think that if we research some of those, it would be very helpful. There's been some ideas given here that maybe we should break down into small groups. I think if we aren't in a big hurry, if the city's not in a big hurry to discuss this ordinance, it maybe give us an opportunity and some of us will get off our butts and research a little more and come up with maybe some better solutions that have already been handed out tonight. I think if we can't do that, and I'm going to step my foot out here real bad. I live in the county and not in the city. But if the city wants to push the ordinance through without giving us the opportunity to come up with some real good solutions and solutions to the ordinance and to the law. We don't have time to probably change our laws, but the thing is, these homeless people do not have anything to give up. They don't have any pride. And we got to establish pride in them, and that's one of the things they've lost, and you have to rebuild that, or they're never going to change their attitude or what their opinion is about life or, quote, the establishment. And so with that in mind, we've talked about chasing the dog's tail and everything. I think if we sat down and gave us some time, we might come up with some solutions. And in order to do that, I think if we don't give us time to do that, one solution I do know of would be very workable, and I hate to bring that up, John, but I think that if you guys want to pass a law like that or change the ordinance, there's something we call, I think it's called recall. That's what it is. And that's the one I think we need to think about.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Meredith Johnson, and I was homeless. I just was offered a home at Journey Home February the 1st, and I'm a single parent. I have a little boy. I became homeless when I lost my job in Florence in June of 2020, and my job, part of my pay was my housing. So not only did I lose my job, I lost my house, or our home. So I'm someone that was homeless for a long period of time. And for me, it became difficult not just to find a job, but when you don't have a home, you can't take a shower, you can't get ready to go to these interviews, things, all of that just starts, it just is overwhelming. It overcomes you. And to get up from under that was just extremely difficult. You know, I'm not a drug addict. I didn't come from any of that. I didn't, this last gentleman talked about having pride. I was someone that was too proud to stay in the homeless shelter. But I wasn't better than any of those people that were at the homeless shelter. I mean, I was just as homeless as any of the other ones. I'm grateful to Loaves and Fishes and to Journey Home for giving me a home and for all the resources that they offer, because I'm taking advantage of all of those resources. Being homeless for that amount of time, it's scary, and if you didn't have mental issues then, you start to build them up going through all of that. So I've utilized what they've offered me so that I can become a better person. You know, they have job services through Solvista, that a job coach that can kind of just help you get back on your feet and fix your resume and do all of these things. And, you know, therapists and just to help me get back on top so that I can be a better me. And learn from all of what I've been through. I don't have any regrets because going through all that has made me who I am today. I'm better, I'm stronger. And so I have a different stance from where probably many of you do, because I've lived that. I didn't live in the tents, but when I moved into Journey Home, there were that first really cold snowstorms that we had, and there were, I think, 7 tents that were up, and I just remember looking out my window and thinking, thank God those people have somewhere to go. Because during the time that I was homeless, I was grateful that I had my car. I lived in my car. I struggled to pay my storage just so that I could hold on to the things that belonged to me, that made my home a home to my family. So having places and resources, you know, we each make our own choices, and I'm only in control of what I do. but I made the choice to be better and to utilize all those things that were offered to me. And so, although some people may not do that, I'm someone that chose to do that. And I'm grateful for it. And the people that are my neighbors, you know, that live next to me, you know, they came from similar walks, or at least from being homeless. And I know that they're grateful. You know, and we all, as I said, we all make our choices, but I just feel blessed for having gone through what I've gone through. And I'm not originally from here, I'm from Montana. So when I hear people say, well, if they're homeless but they're not from here, well, they're here. And they need help. And if they're willing to take the help that's offered, then, you know, you can become better. As I said, we all make our choices. So you know, had I not been introduced to Loaves and Fishes, I wouldn't have known of all the resources that I had. So I think putting that information out there for people who maybe they don't know where to go or where to turn to, you know, that helps a lot. Because if you don't know, then, you know, how do you make the steps to become better, to get better? So anyhow, I just wanted to share that with everyone. And
Thank you, Meredith. Amy?
Could I just say, you know, thank you so much for coming this evening. It takes a lot of courage to share your story, and we really appreciate you taking the time to share it with us. I also just wanted to quickly go back because I want to make sure that as folks come forward with these great ideas that we're capturing them appropriately. So for Ms. Javernick, and I may miss things, but what I heard from you is that we need to include the actual purpose in the ordinance. We need to include a set number in the ordinance. We need to include an application process in the ordinance.
Just how you're going to acquire the people into the camps.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't feel the ordinance is in any way ready to be voted on
No.
this month. That's a whole other subject, but those need to be in there. If you're going to try and tell the city, here's our plan, you don't even have a plan. You don't even know which people you're targeting to bring into the camps.
Thank you. And then for Mr. Colon, I have that the idea that it may be beneficial to postpone considering the ordinance and have another work session where we do break up into small groups and have kind of a much more detailed red line edit. I just want to make sure that I'm personally capturing all of these great ideas that are coming forward. So thank you. And thank you again, ma'am, for coming tonight and for sharing your story.
Yes, we have a couple other speakers.
Yes, my name's Luke Miller. I live here in Canyon City. I'm lucky enough to be a homeowner here in town. I've never spent a night outside that I didn't choose to, and I feel very blessed because of that. But I think it might be beneficial to define the problem again, and to define the things that we can all agree on. So I think if we define the problem, it's the criminality associated with homelessness, not necessarily the homelessness itself. Okay. If we can agree on that, I think we can move forward. And I think the other thing we can agree on is that we, as a community, want to help people that are willing to help themselves and that are willing, like this ma'am was able to do, was to improve herself and contribute back. And we all, I think we can agree on that. We want to help those people, all right? So how do we do that? I agree with Joy that these things, the way this is going to go forward, it needs to be very well defined. You can't have loose ends. You've got to have the things set up, you know, where people have to meet certain considerations. They have to abide by the rules, et cetera, et cetera. So I agree, it's probably not well-defined enough, but I don't think that it's worth throwing it out on its head because it's not developed enough yet. I think that if we can develop it, define it to where this is something that we can help people get out of these situations. Because like you said, when you get in this situation, you try to go to a job interview, but you can't bathe. You don't have clean clothes because you can't do laundry. You don't have child care, so you can't, on and on and on. And these are the people we need to help. We can't just say we're not gonna provide any help because it's futile to try to help, and because it's not. This problem is here. It's not gonna go away just because I think of it as burying our heads in the sand. If we just say, oh, it's futile, let's not do anything about it. Well, it's gonna get worse. We're gonna bury our heads in the sand, and eventually we're gonna pull our heads out of where they are and not find what we're hoping to see. So that's all I have to say.
Yes, sir.
John, I'm sorry I forgot to say a few things. I did forget to say thank you for letting me say something. The other thing is, with age, you see a lot of experience and things go by. I was in the mental health field for 30 years, and I saw a lot of changes there. When I first started, there was like 6,000 patients at Colorado State Hospital in Pueblo, and they started letting them out for various reasons into community mental health centers, and that was a big issue to reduce the population. Our state was spending an awful lot of money to house those people and take care of them. We talk about the homeless and the issue of drugs. When we legalized marijuana in the state of Colorado, we started getting more homeless, and that's a fact, and I improved that one too. And so our long-term goal may not be just this ordinance, but we may look at how can we turn our laws around to where they're more for the people, the majority of the people. And the marijuana issue is a lead-in to other drugs, and I've seen that. And that's one issue that we should look at. The mental health part, we let all those people out, and the majority of those that did have issues are on the streets now, and they go to help. Their other help they're looking at is the drug side. And so we need to look at what is our mental health system doing. You see all this newspaper and all the articles and what it is today and the issues in mental health. I know that's a big chore. We can't tackle that. You think homeless is an issue, the mental health is a real issue. But if we look at what our state is doing there, we can come up with a lot of ideas of how to maybe change that. With our local group, and I did make the comment, that until someone takes pride in themselves and what they're doing, they're not going to change. And I've seen that too many times. And it goes with the illness of mentally ill or anything else. If we can organize a group of, and I'm talking about mental health workers, the state had teams. They had a psychiatrist, a psychologist, an occupational therapist, a recreational therapist. I mean, they had a whole team. They had mental health workers, and they would all get together with that one individual and go over their chart and sit down, and we looked at some stuff financially, that what might brought them there, and they worked to try to improve that person and, first of all, get them to believe in themselves, raise themselves up. And if you don't do that, you're not going to solve the homeless problem. And I don't think we, as a city or a community or a county, can go into the mental health business and try to straighten that out, but we can sure look at what's going on in our system and look at our state laws, and when they start changing some of these laws and what our mental health program is doing, raise a little bit of heck about that one. Okay? That's long term.
Thank you, Manny. Timmy?
Hello, my name's Timmy Pearson. I promise not to be angry this time, okay? I wanted to say first and foremost that I wanted to thank that young lady for having the courage to get up here among all of us. It took a lot of guts to come forward. And I want to congratulate you on how far your journey has come. So thank you. Secondly, we've been talking about a lot of criminal kinds of things, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with a media entity called Newsbreak. See it on our phones. This came up 2 days ago, and I guess it kind of, I'm concerned about it. I moved to Canyon City 49 years ago with the thought that Canyon City, Colorado was the safest place that I could ever think of living. And over the years, it certainly has evolved. But let me just kind of quote this to you. It's a report highlighting the 10 most dangerous cities in the state of Colorado. And so it comes with the most dangerous first, second, third. And so we made it, let's see, where is it? Right here. Let me read this. First was Lone Tree, Colorado. Second, Grand Junction, Colorado. Third, Wheat Ridge. Fourth, Canyon City, Colorado. In 2020, Canyon City had the highest rape and ranked 8th in murder rates. Canyon City is the 6th most dangerous for violent crimes and has the highest burglary rate in Colorado in 2022. We did not make this list in 2021. I really did a lot of research on this. I guess I'm asking the question, why would we be known for it today in 2022? A drilled down further of the information that was presented in this report came out of FBI statistics. I think what all of us, and I live here in the community, and I no longer feel safe here. I'm sorry, for whatever the reasons. I don't feel safe taking my dogs, my friends, or whatever out in areas that I was passionate about, loving, talking about. I don't feel safe. I've saw drug deals go down. I've seen some pretty serious things and gotten hold of law enforcement after seeing those things go down or watching them go down and call law enforcement. Passionate I am about being in this community and being a part of what embraces it all. Passionate about a river walk that every one of you, as well as our recreation district, has been very proud of creating. I personally came up on an incident in the Riverwalk. I shall never walk the Riverwalk again, ever, by myself, or not even feel comfortable with anybody else. That situation, I know I should have had a gun on me. I know it would not have mattered if I'd had my dogs. A mental health clinician in this community, I've had reports from several of my clients about things that have happened that I won't talk about in public here. I've shared them with John. Those incidents should have not happened, and no one should have been exposed to those. Is it because of the homeless? Is it because? I don't know. But I do know that in my situation, the way I was accosted, somebody came up out of the bottom of the Riverwalk, and I innocently was there enjoying a beautiful day of watching the river roll, ducks floating along, unexpecting what I got accosted with. I feel like we need to, out of hearing where we are with that list, we have a problem. Is it a systemic problem? I have no idea. I'm not in law enforcement. I don't know how many drug overdoses that we've had in this community that we really don't hear about. Are they a part of the murders that are on this hit list? Is that from homeless people? Only some people here would know that. I'm concerned that if we don't get a grip on what we've got going on right now in our community before we open potentially another Pandora's box, what are you doing to the citizens that are living here right now in terms of safety of property? And I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. You know, we talk so much, sir, as the attorney, about protecting the rights of the homeless and making sure that the city is infinitely protected from lawsuits that may be brought by any homeless person who might be in the county or in the city of Canyon City. I guess I have to ask you about what are the rights of the people who live in this community, who own property, who pay taxes, who are part of that income that is the infinite seeming resources that we give out daily, ongoing, to the homeless community. What if we were, sir, and I ask this to the attorney, to come together with a class action lawsuit against the city of Canyon City, even Fremont County, to speak about our rights having been violated in so many different ways? Like that person got up and talked about being personally accosted. I know a business owner here in Canyon City who has been personally accosted and called law enforcement about it and got the help. Is that right? I mean, where are our rights? And can we legally sue you? Or can we, better yet, we have 3 years to pay our property taxes. Maybe we should just refuse to pay our property taxes. For our rights, as we've heard here by a number of people, on our property are violated constantly. And sometimes we get relief where law enforcement cannot be everywhere to be there Johnny on the spot. They can come after the call. But what happens when that's going down? What's an owner on a property supposed to do when there's a very, very serious situation going down? One day, mark my words, the seriousness of that situation will confront this city. It will confront Fremont County. And what are you going to do if a person is accosted on their property, has somebody on the property that shouldn't be there illegally, God forbid, takes their life, rapes the person? What recourse does that property owner have? And I ask you to think deep in your heart, what are the rights of the citizens that you are sitting up here representing? We want to feel safe in our community, and we do want to help the homeless, but we don't want to be perpetrated on, and we don't want to be victims of their need to steal grocery carts, of their need for money to buy the drugs that we've talked about tonight. They've got to be getting the money for those drug deals. They've got to be getting the money somewhere to be able to have the needles to put the drug in their arms. And the last thing, you know, have you ever been out like at the park or somewhere and had to go to the bathroom? I mean, if you've had a baby, you know, you just got to go if you're a woman. And I've been in those instances, like in trying to enjoy the park. You go to the bathroom and you forget, I can't go to the bathroom because they're locked. Carrie Canterbury, several years ago, and I've got the pictures here, took pictures of the public bathrooms that we keep locked away from us because they were being destroyed. The city's answer was lock us out, meaning the taxpayers, the citizens of this community who pay for those very bathrooms. I have to run, that day I had to run, get in the car and pray to God I got home before I wet my pants. And I started sitting there and thinking, well, geez, there's something wrong with this picture. Our taxes help pay for those bathrooms. Instead of closing them and locking them out for all of us not to be able to use, geez, could we come up with a bathroom patrol so that we could use public entities that we have paid for? With hard work, getting out of bed every day, leaving our kids, homes, a man who puts on a uniform every day to come and defend this city. He pays taxes. He owns property, or maybe not, but still a viable part of our community. Somewhere our rights. There's something very confusing about this, and I ask each and one of you to decide hard, tough questions of where do we come the middle of being able to consider the rights of those who have the property, who have the land, who have whatever that sometimes the homeless, let's be frank, do prey upon. And if we've got this legacy for being, what, dangerous city, that's not very much to brag about. Top 10 of the top 10 cities in the state of Colorado, it's not very much to brag about. And for me, it's even more concerning and compounds my own personal experiences on the Riverwalk. And I feel like I'm in prison. I'm sorry. I can't go and do and be the places that I love passionately about living here. One of the reasons that I love coming and living in this community. And I'll take up no more time. I no longer feel free in the city of Canyon City and Fremont County to enjoy my life on the same level that I did as I did maybe 6, 7 years ago. That life for me, I don't know about anybody else, is gone. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Ashley?
I just wanted to offer a couple of clarifications. For the bathrooms in the last couple of years, except for during COVID, they are open during park operating hours, unless there has been some extensive vandalism and they need to be shut for other reasons. We only close the bathrooms at night after the park hours because we found that keeps those bathrooms safer, keeps people who aren't supposed to be spending the nights and they're out. And just to clarify that vandalism, we do have cameras on the outside of the bathrooms, has shown a lot of teenager problems with the vandalism. So sorry that you had that experience, Timmy. But that is something we are working on. We didn't get a chance to cover this because the presentation got nixed, but just want to make sure that the audience knows that since the last meeting, since the Riverwalk was brought up, that there has been some solutions that have been getting worked on, and that includes, sorry, for a reason I'm digitally, so I don't cough all over all of you. Digitally, we heard a lot of concerns about the Riverwalk and about police being able to make calls on Justice Center Road because there's just such a terrible division of what city and county and who's who and where do we go, or and then plus we just border each other, and so there's some problems there. And so 2 solutions from our police department that they were on right away is drafting an intergovernmental agreement between the CCPD and the Sheriff's Office to have the county help pay for paroles on the entirety, excuse me, the entirety of the Riverwalk. So originally, the Canyon City patrols only was about from 1st to 9th-ish Street, because that was the only part of the Riverwalk that the city had jurisdiction over. With this IGA, the CCPD could patrol the Riverwalk on down to at least Reynolds, looking into McKenzie. And so that's a solution that has come out of these discussions that is looking really good, to have those patrols extended on the Riverwalk to make everyone feel safer. The ability to do that isn't an everyday thing. It's not an every week thing, but it's a start for a solution. The second solution was also a drafted IGA between the CCPD and the Sheriff's Office to be able to have the ability to issue trespasses within a certain radius around Justice Center Road on those properties that are city or county. Either way, within that radius, either Sheriff's Department or the CCPD can respond to calls, so that we can really be more attentive to taking care of the property owners there. So I just wanted to make sure that we put that information out there. Now that clarification as this conversation continues.
And just to clarify on that, what's proposed to the Sheriff's Office is not just a radius around Justice Center. It's actually a quarter mile from the city boundary into the county. So it would cover the entire city.
Thank you for that important clarification.
Just a quick question. I don't know if we know the answer or not, but because it is a draft agreement and it's going back and forth between the parties. But is it envisioned by this agreement that, because one of the tools we have in the city is to be able to trespass people off of private property, that is, I think, a good tool to help people deal with the homeless issues. Would they be able to enforce the city ordinance in county property for trespass?
No. No, but state law also has a similar prohibition, so they'd be able to enforce the state law counterpart of what's in the city municipal ordinance.
And it's a counterpart, so it's similar.
Yes, and it would just be prosecuted in the Fremont County Court as opposed to in Canyon City's municipal court.
Thank you for that. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Kate Sorge, and I live across from the homeless encampment on Elm and Locust. And so I strongly urge you not to go forward with the proposed safe outdoor space within the city limits. I think everybody wants to help, the people that want to help themselves, but what I'm finding the issue is people that are on drugs don't want help. They don't want to go move into an apartment. They want to live how they're living across the street, devaluing my home. And so I really suggest that you all consider zero tolerance. If you really want to have these tent camps, please put them across the street from your house. I'm sorry, I live it every day. My house has devalued. I can't move. These people harbored a felon last week who broke into cars and broke out windows. We had to deal with the police chasing them. Finally, they did catch them. But every day, there's something going on. I've contacted zoning, DHS, Child Protective Services, Animal Control when I got bit by their dog, and fire department, and then the sheriff's department. Nothing has been done. Zoning is telling me they have a right to be there. We have a neighbor a few doors down who's been trying to build a home on his property. He was told he could only stay there 2 weeks. He did it legally. He moved, got an apartment while he's building. These people are doing horrible things. Nothing is being done. So my concern is I just think with a city this small that can't even fix a pothole, how are you going to address these issues? I want to move. I want to move out of here. Or I want my taxes reduced because my house, I can't sell it because I have to look at that every day and smell it. Yesterday, they added another camper to the house. I'm more concerned about the shady elements that are going up and down the street. And this is all drug-related. It's not homeless like this wonderful woman. We want to help people like that. But I'm sorry, I would say 75% of the homeless here, they're on drugs. And if this city is ready to deal with the mental health issue and give our police the actual authority to do what they need to do, I mean, I'm sure they want to help us, but this is 10 months. And zoning is telling me, well, they cleaned up the site. Come on by to Locust and Elm and smell what we smell before you decide to put in another camp. I'm sorry, but I might seem really angry, but this is my life. 10 months of this. We've had packages stolen. We had people come to our door the other night asking if we were the drug house. It's like, I'm sorry, there are zombies walking up and down Locust. You all need to address those issues before you even think about doing homeless camps. And I will move back to Canyon so I can vote each and every one of you out if you don't address these issues. This is ridiculous.
Can I just ask you a quick question? Excuse me. No, I'm not, so you're saying you contact, because that's within the county. Have you spoke with the sheriff's department or sat down with Sheriff Cooper?
Usually about 3 times a week.
3 times a week? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Have you talked to the county commissioners just by chance to bring that concern with them?
Yes, he's trying to help, but I really don't think, I don't know if this is a corrupt town or if you all are just.
Okay, I'm just,
Seriously.
I'm just asking, And don't take, I'm not trying to be controversial, just because, you know, I know that address. I have friends who live right in that neighborhood, so.
Right.
That's why I'm saying.
It's dangerous.
Well, I'm not saying that because I go over their house. I'm not saying that, and I'm not a controversy there. What I'm saying is, I'm just saying, can you get a
We've
good?
gone to our commissioner.
Exactly, talk with your commissioner,
We've
talk
gotten
with
with
the
our
sheriff's
neighbors.
department, see if you can call up and make an appointment with our Sheriff Cooper.
Okay, I've even been threatened by them for calling the police on them. I've gone to CPS because their children are not being attended to when they do have them, which is
Okay.
only a few days a week.
Right, I understand.
And CPS didn't do anything.
Okay.
Now, zoning did come out today because they told me, well, they are cleaning it up. My concern, there is human waste that's going in there. They're telling me they're dumping it. I have cameras. We know what's going on.
Sure, I understand. And
So-
I would be extremely frustrated as well.
So I don't want to
mean,
see all that
but-
crap
But I'm
come in
saying,
the county.
try to, I don't know how to address it with the county because, you know, that is out of our jurisdiction. But I'm saying, try to get hold of Sheriff Cooper or, you know, try again with one of your county commissioners. And I hate to say it, but sometimes, this is a bad thing to say, and it should not have to be. And it happens, I'm sure, within the city sometimes, and it happens in the county, and it happens in government agencies, and it happens in private business.
We have no
Sometimes you
rights.
just have to stay on them till that gets fixed. And I
Right.
apologize.
It's just sad for the man who is trying to follow the law and can only live on his property 2 weeks, and then we have this shit show. I'm sorry. I'm done. So if anybody wants to buy a house in Lincoln Park on the corner of Elm and Locust, give me a call.
Yes, ma'am.
I support everything she said 100%. And the reason why I came back up here, I got two main reasons. One is because you came up here and spoke. And what you said was so beautiful and it touched my heart. And I realized that I didn't want to stand up here in front of the people in my community and seem like I was thinking about it one-sided. I was homeless too. Before I moved to Colorado, before I had a business, whenever I was a child, after I had a baby, I lived through things like that. And I know that I never would have found myself in one of these tent camps. And that's why I'm standing up here again, because we know that the biggest part of the issue, like this woman's dealing with, is that it is in our neighborhoods, and we're already not doing things about it. And it seems to me that we keep referencing this ordinance in future tense as if it's going to happen anyways, and that we're like, what can we scribble into the ordinance that would make the community accept it, instead of saying, you know, well, this is a bad idea, you know, because it is, you know. For me personally, there's nothing that you can add to this ordinance to make it okay for me, because I know that it's not a solution. It'll become part of the problem. It'll grow. Like she said, the smell of feces, that is a very real thing. That's something that I've dealt with at both of my locations.
That's just 2 people with occasional kids.
Yeah, it's,
That's it.
I urge anybody that's here tonight, no matter what side you stand on, to go to this woman's neighborhood, you know, or
when you go by.
yeah, or any of these. You know, none of the people like myself, you know, and I can't speak for this beautiful, brave woman right here, but for myself, I would not feel safe in any kind of setting like that. And I feel like we're all out here pouring our hearts out that could be to no avail entirely, because we're talking about these stipulations that we could put in place to make a bad idea happen. And, you know, with a little time, I promise, I am a woman of solution. You know, I really am. But this snuck up on me like a fart in court, okay? I had no idea. I had no idea about, like, I feel like a lot of us found out about word of mouth. And as a business owner in this community, I assure you, I'm involved and I care about everything that's, you know, brought to us. But I wouldn't have known if Ashley didn't tell me, because I didn't, nobody sent me a letter, you know, and I don't know how everybody else in here found out, but I feel like most of us did find out because it was a word of mouth thing. And I feel like if we hadn't have made a stink, it'd probably already be passed, right? You know, and that's a shame, because because it's our community too. I don't feel like there's any way to make this tent city safe. And we're talking about all these stipulations. You know, we can have somebody monitoring the front door paid by yours truly. You know, if these regular folks in here that aren't politicians don't give you a solution that you think is good enough, it sounds to me like we're heading in this direction, you know, anyways. We are just regular homeowners, citizens, laborers, business owners, you know, and we're taking like all this extra time. Obviously we care, you know, because we're not the politicians. But it seems like everyone keeps referencing that it's going to happen anyways, and that an entirely different solution is not acceptable. Am I right about that? I'm sorry, let me reword the question.
Okay. I don't think that anybody's leaning saying, hey, we're going to pass this regardless. At least I can tell you personally, I'm taking in everything here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's so important. I hope all my other fellow council people are as well. And I'm going to just say something real quick, just going back.
Yes, sir.
And you know, you and I have known each other a long time, so.
Yes, we have.
But and I want to tell this to everybody, and I'm going to just say this real quick as a little public announcement. Everything on city council agenda is always posted. It's put in the paper, which we know the paper's having a problem. We know that one. But it's always online. You can always see what's going to be coming up at council, and so many times it comes up that it comes to the second reading and everybody's panicked. But not one person was here for the first reading. No, but I'm just saying, but it happens a lot where people don't read what's going to be on the agenda. And
yes, sir.
So.
And I don't want to deter.
But
I don't want to deter from the original thing that we're sitting here talking about. You're right. Just the same way it's your job to know your rights and know the law. You know what I mean? You have to seek those things out. I just feel like something this serious, maybe we should have gotten some kind of notice. Because how would I have known otherwise? I'm a super busy woman, and I'm dealing with all the homeless that are coming in and off of my property. So I'm glad that I found out and had the chance to come here and speak. Lord knows I don't have the luxury of spare time, but I can assure you that this will be taking up all of what I do have now that it is an issue. If it's my job as just a citizen to come up with a solution and bring it here rather than just say, well, we all know that this isn't going to work, right? We keep referencing the people that need help, and those people are not going to stay in a place where they have to. Does the machete guy get to stay in the tent city? Okay, because I don't feel safe with the machete guy. I don't think the person in the tent next to them is going to feel safe with the machete guy. And that's just one guy that got caught doing something. I feel like this is where we're at. It's not about scribbling in another stipulation to this bad idea. It's about rerouting the plan and finding something that will actually work. Thank you. I have a lot more to say, but I'm going to step down because I got two gentlemen waiting behind me. But I'll be back next meeting.
That young woman is a tough one to follow. My wife and I have lived here since 2007. And we've really liked it here. And we're invested here. We're invested in housing. We have approximately 70 rental doors. So not huge, but we do a lot of housing with a lot of tenants. And my wife, bless her heart, she works with every one of these groups. And I'll say for my wife and myself, and I think a lot of people in the crowd tonight, I can't support a tent city here. I watch the news and look at different cities that are doing these tent cities. I grew up just outside of Chicago, spent my first 40 years of life just outside of Chicago, and I look at what's happened to Chicago, and then I hear that Loaves and Fishes is going to model or go to Chicago to try to model because they have a successful tent city. Does anybody watch the news and see what Chicago's going through? It's ridiculous. Solution number one. If we're going to provide services of any kind, we got to be running background checks on these people if they're coming here. We were told at the last meeting I was at, we were all told that 70% of the people that Loaves and Fishes are helping are from Fremont County. I'm going to give what our statistics show with managing, owning about 70 rental doors for the last many years now down here. 83% of those sent to us had felonies or felony in when we ran the background checks, including assault against children. We raised our youngest son here. I would really not want to raise my son here right now if he were young. It's concerning. It's very concerning. The last 10 that were sent to my wife, and we do background checks on everybody. We do credit checks and we do background checks. The last 10 that were sent to her to get an apartment with us, and we do different kinds of apartments. We do nice 2-bedrooms where, you know, they're not furnished, but they're pretty nice, they're larger, and the tenant pays their utilities. We also do all bills paid. So that is more affordable housing. And affordable housing as a provider is becoming more and more and more difficult. Cost of construction has become insane. Energy costs, where we do all bills paid, we see over 50% increase just in the last 3 months, year over year. And when you're paying those bills, it is significant. Escalating property taxes. We pay a lot of property taxes. In the last 4 years, they've increased 53%. I know that our services that we're receiving are not increasing by 18% a year, I think is what that works out to. That really needs to change because the property tax monies aren't being used properly. I did a little research. I'm not in favor, as I said before, of a tent city here. And I think most of the people here said the same thing. There's a lot of people that won't even get up and talk. But the 6 best cities nationally, if you were homeless to live in, are as follows. Houston, number 1. Austin, number 2. Salt Lake City, number 3. Berkeley, California, number 4. San Diego, California, number 5. And New Orleans, number 6. $163 to $230. That's the range of a bus ticket to get them from Colorado Springs to there, by city. Those are the cities that have proven that they're the best places to live if you're homeless. And I know we can't make somebody take the bus ride. But I've spoken to too many people. I do a lot of business in Colorado Springs, and sometimes people are offered bus tickets and they accept them. And I don't want to sound discompassionate, certainly following up the last 2 women and the young woman who spoke on her own. That's the kind of people we all want to help. Everybody in here would help that person. But just drive into Canyon City from that end of town, because I drive that way every day, from the Home Depot light. And you start seeing the crowd walking into town. I'd hate to have a business right there. I've watched Canyon City go from kind of an okay, sleepy town since I've lived here to looking at a wonderful downtown that is thriving with business. The restaurant culture has grown tremendously. And then I talk to business people that own business down there, and they're dealing with homeless people hanging out on their stoops or on the backside of their buildings in their alleys trying to break in. And these are well-respected people in the community that own these businesses. That's why I don't want to see that here. I don't want to see the field of dreams. Build it and they will come, because they will. If we continue as a city to make it easier for the homeless to be attracted here with more services, we don't have to provide more services. We're going to get what we accept, and we're going to get what we tolerate as a city. And you guys get to make those votes. And man, I hope you vote the right way, because I think this tent city SOS, you can call it an SOS, safe outdoor space, but I mean, I've never been homeless. But living in a little tent city, I wouldn't feel safe there. And watching the people that are over there, because I have friends over in that area, part of town, and I can see where I would just be ready to just pop if I had property there, with the feces and the urine and the needles and the drugs and the filth. Please, do not bring more of that to Canyon City. We need to find a way to reduce it. Now, I heard that from the mayor that we had 15 success stories where we got them into housing. Now, I don't know what number she was pulling from, but if we put 15 people into homes, on one hand, that's pretty good. As a business person, and anybody who's run a business, depending on where the numbers were working from, because in 2019 we were told there was 396 homeless people documented. And then the most recent year we were told there's 149. So I'll take that we solved the homeless issue with housing for 15 out of 149. That's 10% success rate. That is not a success. And not to take anything away from the woman over here, because that is the kind of people we want to help. But we've got to have a way to help people that want help. A hand up, not a hand out. And reduce the criminal element. And somehow we have to be able to arrest people that are creating problems. And when people call and they're calling the cops and they're not getting response time, they're gone. We've had it in one of our apartments. Had a homeless young guy, had to be less than 30, shirtless, pants hanging down, sleeping in our garbage dumpster. That's not the kind of thing we want in this city. It's really not. And by the time we approached him and found out, he's scooting along down the alley and out of town. Or down the alley and nobody's going to find him. So I just ask you, I think that it's flawed, it's going to be more problematic, and if you build it, they will come. And if that's what you want, I'm also in favor of, if you vote for it, feel free to put it right by your home. And then you'd know how the rest of the people feel that live there. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Sure. Ashley?
Super fast, just a couple, just clarifications. The Fremont County's Built for Zero team went to Chicago for a national convention on homeless solutions. It was not to study a shelter in Chicago, just, Fremont County also does provide bus tickets for people who are homeless, who have a place to go or a family member or a friend to go to. So bus tickets are given away frequently to people. And 319 people were helped to find housing in the year 2021. So the total number of people who were helped to find housing was 319.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'll make this short. I see we're way over time. But I wanted to point out a few things. And one is, my name is Fred Toney. I bought a home here about 8 years ago. Plan on retiring here. To me, it's a great place to live. I think you're about to change the face of Canyon City doing this. I'm wondering, why can this not, sort of stop this train or slow it down and get the input that we need, recraft this ordinance, and then take it to a vote on a ballot? Is that possible? So, somebody mentioned Austin, Texas. I watched Austin, Texas go through this same piece of construction, and it turned into a hellhole. People used to go to downtown Austin, go to UT, go to the state capitol. They'd bring buses with kids so they could see the capitol. All that tourism stopped because the tent cities were there. They had buckets on every corner for you know what. It was a disaster. Then it cost millions to clean it up once they figured, oh, that wasn't a good idea. If you put 7 tents up and try and manage those, there'll be 70 people in line, and where are they going to be to get these tents? There's a difference between people that really need help and want to do the right thing, thank you very much, and the bums that they're not planning to do anything but live off the system. So I think we need to put this to a vote. I think we need to know what the objectives are. One of the objectives should be you don't encourage bums from other cities, whether it's Pueblo, whether it's Colorado Springs, whether it's Denver, Austin, Texas, or even worse, illegals that's showing up from across the border. That ought to be one of the objectives. Now, since I've been here, I've had several incidents similar to the ones you've heard tonight. People with hammers, half naked, walking up through the cactus and the hills, knocking on our door. But let me tell you, kudos to the police department and the sheriff's department. They've responded like that. I've had nothing but good response from that. I've also, lately, there's 2 ladies that's on the code enforcement board that's done a great job. So I got to give them some credit too. But I think every time one of our police officers have to respond to one of these, we're putting their life in danger. We're putting their safety in danger. So I'm just going to say one thing you said is constitutional right for someone to live anywhere they want. That is not true, or you'd have bums in your living room. So I'll close with that, but I'd encourage you to put this to a vote.
Good evening. It's been rather entertaining sitting here. My name is Matt Miller. I live on 3155 Grandview, right next to the Colons. I'm not the smartest man in the room, I assure you that. I grew up in Ohio. Our unemployment rate is 0 where I come from. Our homeless rate is 0 where I come from. It's the biggest Amish community in the United States. That being said, I think Canyon City is still a great place to live. My family moved here with the New Horizon folks, one of the biggest nonprofits here in town. The idea was to live here for 2 years, volunteer, and go back home. We're still here 10 years later. So we think it's a good place to live. I am a business owner, a couple of different businesses we have here in town. We support local businesses. We enjoy our town. We appreciate what you guys do for every one of us. But we do have a homeless problem, and we live right next door to it. I live in the city. My neighbors are all county, but I am in the city. I am not in favor, and I moved here, when I came here with New Horizons, I moved here to help those who are less fortunate than we are. And my heart goes out to people. But I have a career, or I have a business. I have chosen to do so. But we also have people who are career homeless people. It is a career. I do not feel bad for them. I do not feel like I need to help them. They have made a choice to be homeless. The people I feel bad for and the people I want to help are the people who are down on their luck and who need a hand up. I will always help those people, all the time. I think we're called to help those people. When I first moved here, I lived on East Main Street. The guy before me fed the cats. He cut a hole in the garage where the cats could stay. There was cats everywhere. I moved there, I patched the hole. I quit feeding the cats. The cats disappeared.
Good evening. I'm Ty Shepard. I've been here a minute, not as long as some, but more than a lot. I'm not going to regurgitate things and stuff that I've encountered and all the stuff you already know. But I went before the county commissioners the other day, and the thing that has been an ongoing thing in this county is that, oh, it's the city, oh, it's the county. And we're fed up with that. You know, I explained this at the commissioners meeting that it was always a thing. Let's have one building inspector for the county, so to speak, or one building department. We can't even organize that, come together, because it's a constant of butting of heads. I want to encourage you guys to work together and talk and communicate. True or not, the commissioner said, we didn't know about it. It's always a blame game. And I'm hearing it again tonight. Sorry, Tim, call the commissioners. Everybody's called the cops, everybody's called everybody, and everybody wants to blame everything. Let's work together and figure this out. We're all here saying the same thing, but the same question keeps coming up. Why do we need this if the numbers are down? Can any of you answer that?
Yes, I can answer that, because we are helping some people. Yes.
Okay, great job. I understand that. Hold on. There's our programs that are working, for sure. Loaves and Fishes was in its infancy, and I own Express Laundry. My wife and I, we've had it for 20 plus years. I don't know how long. And we had a food truck not food truck, but Care and Share brought food down. We started handing it out. It got so big, and we moved it over to our church, Livingstone Calvary Chapel. Then it was good. We would be able to talk to the people, help them. Hey, how can we help you? Not just handing out food, but plug into their lives. Loaves and Fishes at that time, Don Farr had a great vision. He didn't hand out food to everybody that came along. He wanted to help people and do the same. I'm not criticizing what's going on now. I don't mean it like that. I'm giving you a little history lesson. So then Care and Share says, we don't want you talking to the people. We don't want you telling them about Jesus. We don't want you praying with them. We don't want you doing this. Just hand out the food. Guess what? Pastor said, we're not going to do that anymore. We're not going to just hand out the food. We want to help people. I think it's clear that everybody in this room will help somebody. We're not a bunch of cold-hearted people that says, get them out of here, we don't want them. Yeah, we don't want the problems. So what numbers, I'm a numbers guy, what numbers can you show me that we need to put up 7/10?
So as we said earlier, the idea is to be able to have beds available for those extreme weather events that drive people into shelters.
So be it. Hold on. How many beds are available right now at Loaves and Fishes?
8, I believe, right? 8, 11, 38.
How many do you have vacant right now?
We don't have any vacant right now.
Any vacant?
Right now, we're at 10 because of our construction, but we will be bumping up to 38, hopefully by this month sometime.
I see. So we're a small town. We don't need, and like everybody said, we're not trying to solve a housing problem, but a tent is not a solution. It might be a little shelter, but if it's cold and you're worried about the cold, that's not even an issue. That's not even a solution. So then the city says, well, it's going to be on Loaves and Fishes. No money to this, no money's coming out of this for the city. Well, when the numbers double per Las Cruces for homeless people that come here, because we're providing so much more, do you think that will cost the city any money? How can it not? These men can't even, like the other lady said, can't be everywhere at once. They can't even come close to do what's needed. When you double that problem of the problem ones that are coming, what are you going to do then?
Well, I would say that, you know, I believe it is council's intent to make sure that there is not a doubling. You know, a doubling is a failure.
Okay.
And excuse me.
Sorry.
And it is not our intent to double numbers, to create a tent city as with the connotations of Los Angeles and Chicago and places like that. The intent here is to provide a temporary shelter that works hand in hand with our other ordinances to help manage this problem to some degree. The problem that we've got, I think, is that we have the bad actors amongst our population of people that do not have homes, and it's those people that are causing the problem. And the issue is, how do you tell the difference? You know?
100%. Yeah, we understand that. I've numerous times, same place that Bill Raymer was talking about, Florence, it's U-turn. I've offered many guys around the laundromat there that are strung out and say, we have a place for you. Not interested. Okay, so if the numbers are down, which I'm sorry they're not, that's been way worse the last 2 years at my laundromat. So it's a continual problem. Obviously, when it's cold, they're coming through there, using the bathroom, all this and that. I don't know the date, a month ago, a month and a half at the most, a couple comes in and says, I wasn't there, my manager's there, says, just marches right to the bathroom. She says, are you using the laundry? Oh, yeah. Okay, go ahead. So the gentleman she's with goes out and sits in the car. She's in the bathroom for a while. And I'm sorry, I told you I wasn't going to tell you stories, but I am. But so she's in there for a while. Another customer is needing to use the restroom. And my manager knocks on the door. Ma'am, please hurry up. All kinds of obscenities. Leave me alone, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to say them here. And she's like, okay, gives her a couple more minutes, knocks again. F you, I'm getting ready for court. Okay. She wasn't doing laundry, fine. She comes out and 20-something, and there's a broom sitting there. She throws the broom at my manager, pokes her in the chest, and goes on her merry way. Here I'm owned this for a long time, never had any kind of conflict like that. We've had Machete Man, and we've had a guy with a shovel sitting out front and all this other nonsense. But so we have to lock the bathroom now and give him keys on a big old lid to a soap box. So it just continues to grow. So I think the numbers aren't down because, and you want it because the numbers aren't down. So you know there's a problem that we're not already addressing, like the other lady said. Let's address what we're already looking at here of all the problems all around Bank of San Juan's like crazy this week. I don't know what's going on over there. They broke the wire and they're plugging their cell phones into the air conditioner unit. So I come back to the numbers. So does Loaves and Fishes benefit from this, having these tents on location by some kind of federal fund? I say follow the money. I don't know. Or is it going to open other SOS places across the town? Perhaps maybe at 501 Griffin that the mayor owns, and I hear she's looked at having homeless there. I don't know her intent, but she owns a little church over there on Griffin. Just asking. Follow the money. That's all I know to do. But again, why do we need this particular thing when it's so hard in this city to even build or do anything? You guys come at us as builders. I hardly do any building in this town anymore because it's so complicated and so ridiculous. but we are welcoming ones that don't pay property tax, don't pay all these things, and contribute. So do tell, why do we need this?
Sir, I have a question.
Sure.
If we do nothing at all, we turn our backs on the problem, put our heads in the sand, do you think that homeless people and people who are on drugs, do you think they will stay away from a community that is warm most of the year? Do you think they'll stay away if we ignore them?
Of course not. You're already doing great things. We are doing great things here for our small city. Loaves and Fishes is great. Journey Home, it costs way too much money to build. I don't know if anybody knows it costs $9 million to build that. But anyway, that's irrelevant. So just because you put up 7 tents doesn't going to solve your problem. And that's what you've said you're going to do, is 5, 6, 7, 10 or less. When you have this many, what does that do? I don't understand.
The Mayor Smith would like to join this conversation. Ashley?
Just 2 quick clarifications. There's no money. Creating an SOS is not a money maker. I think the argument probably goes the other way. It costs a lot of money. I think just that clarification for there. And I do own a 501 Griffin, the old church there, and with the intention of creating apartments for affordable housing. So just wanted to make that clarification.
Thank you. So, I mean, when Denver spends $28 million, somebody made the money, because they only bought some tents. I mean, somebody made some money. So I'm not saying that Loaves and Fishes is, or Ashley is at her property, or whatever, but somebody is going to capitalize off of these people that can't even have a say-so in it. It just doesn't make any sense.
Thank you. We have other speakers.
Okay.
First of all, I'd like to address you, ma'am, when you would say to turn our back on them. Not one person stood up here and offered that, not one. So I think that was a little extreme on your part. The other thing I'd like to bring up is you mentioned LA, you mentioned these other places. How about Denver? In 2012, I moved home, and Denver was the place to go. It was the happening town. It was great. People, Lodo, everything was going. I had friends moving downtown. It's great. They're all gone. There were shootings downtown. Everybody has left downtown Denver. And now nobody even wants to have activities in downtown Denver now. And that's what you're proposing for us here. Denver didn't start out wanting these huge tent cities, but that's what they got. And their beautiful town in 10 years is garbage now. And I moved out of there, and I came here because this was a county that seemed like it had its head on straight. And because of Dwayne McFall and what he did for this county, that brought us here. And it's a beautiful place. And my husband's retired LAPD, 31 years. And he looks around and he goes, I don't get this. I don't get this at all. And we're just waiting, he says. We're poised on a place that we could see something awful happen. And I want to say here and now, I don't want us to get to that point. And I don't want to turn us into Denver's model, because they're failing.
And I think everyone on council agrees with you.
And why are you going down that?
Do we have some other comment?
Yes, I moved here back in '07 from Minnesota. A teacher that my daughter had recommended this was the best place to be raising my daughter. Now, we've dealt with Hatchet Man up on North 7th, and he did get picked up and hauled away. Haven't seen him since. But if this tent city goes through like you guys wanted to, I'll be at the headquarters with the recall petition to recall anybody that's for it on this board. And that's all I got to say.
Yes, Amy. Are you okay? Does anyone here at the front table have any comments they'd like to share? Okay, I think we've certainly exceeded our time, and unless someone has some other suggestions for our ordinance, I think we're going to conclude this meeting.
And I want to say, guys, thank you all. I mean, I love this community. I moved here a long time ago too, and I'm raising my son here. I have no plans on going anywhere. I love this community. I want to see it be the safest community. I think we have one of the most outstanding police departments. I think it's changing. They're getting more staffed, or almost fully staffed, I believe. You know, that was a problem in the last few years. But I think, and I'm going to say this, and I might be generalizing, but I think all of us up on council love Canyon City. We want to see this be a safe place. But I want to say thank you all, and I appreciate you all coming here tonight. And believe me, I know that I listened a ton, and I can feel the heart of where our town wants this at. But I just want to say thank you all, because I like to see us all being involved in our city deals. And doggone it, come here when we have just little tiny things too. Everybody, we want to hear from you, all right?
And Amy.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Sorry, I did have one more, I guess, question for the group. There had been some discussion that folks had additional solutions, and that this forum wasn't necessarily that conducive to having that kind of conversation. So I did just want to ask if that is still a desire that people want to have additional smaller group conversations. I wanted to make sure that we asked you now before you left, because we certainly do want to harness that energy and that passion that you certainly displayed this evening and have displayed in the lead up to this. Is that something that people would like to have additional? Yeah. Okay. So is that something, Ryan, could I ask that we schedule additional workshops that are kind of more focused on small group conversations and the ability to have, please, sir.
I have a question. Does it take a full majority or just one more than however many of you guys there are?
So whoever is here, well, I don't know if I should answer this question. Correct me if I'm wrong. Whoever is present at the meeting where a vote is being held, it requires a majority of the people who are present, as long as we have quorum. Yes, so we have
7 council members and 1 mayor.
Will everyone that votes for this sign their name and take responsibility? Or are you going to say, no, we're not going to tell you who?
all votes have to be held in public, just like this.
Yeah. When it comes to when it comes to a vote, it comes around and it's a simple aye or nay. It's just comes around, so, and it's in front, it's on the TV, so all of us will answer to the public, you know, in the open. The only one that I can see, I believe, that is present tonight is our mayor.
Yeah, so you have Ashley online. We had one person who was traveling. They already had travel plans when this meeting was scheduled for an obligation out of town. And I believe Brandon was also out of town. He was going to try and join online. I don't know if he was able to watch or not. And then the last seat is currently vacant and will be sworn in on Monday.
It is. It's filmed online.
Yeah.
You can watch it online. Absolutely. Sure. Sure. So just
we are adjourned.